I'd just like to leave it till right on the dot to start the thing officially. Oh, what's happened here? So how are you, Sylvia?
I'm I'm just a moment. The volume was too low and now it's too high. Can you say something, Vince, just to hear?
Yes, I was asking you how you
Okay.
were. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, although I could hear
Yeah.
your voice, I didn't understand what you were saying. It was a little soft.
Mm. No, no problem. I cannot speak very loud because everybody's still sleeping in the house.
Okay, yeah, I get it. Just
Yeah.
speak close to it then. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I mean, I'm the same as last time. I'm dealing with the same stuff. So just waking up with this activation in the morning. If I do a nap, if I take a nap during the day, it's the same. I wake up, even if it's a 15 minutes nap, I wake up with the same activation. So, just trying to put some, you know, maybe shift a little bit the perspective from which it is viewed, and try
Mm,
to let some love in, some love for this activation, which was maybe needed at that time when it first presented itself.
mm.
Just the same. I can't say that
Okay.
something major has changed.
You're saying nothing major has changed.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. So, so we can presume that if things keep happening, that the reason why they're keeping on happening is still there. And that's a statement of the obvious, really, isn't it? Right. So,
Yeah.
so the fact that this keeps on happening is because it keeps on happening. Right. Whatever conditions that are required for it to happening exist, and we haven't changed that. And so
Yeah.
we would like to see that change, that is your awakening response, and we would like to see that change because we've interfered with, we've we've seen something about what the conditions are that trigger it. Now, this is interesting because those conditions for you appear to line up while you're still asleep, or rather, while you're not yet fully out of sleep.
Yes.
Tricky to use the word awakened here, but yes, coming out of sleep. So it is in that twilight zone, I rather imagine, and of course I'm only guessing it, but it is. It seems to me that it is in that twilight zone where you're not still fully asleep, but you're not yet out of sleep. You're not yet have woken up from the sleep. And in that state, there forms these conditions that result in you waking up with a start, with a gasp of fright. Would you say fright?
Yeah, well, it's the word I would use maybe when it's very strong. Other times it's just like an activation inside, just like uh, I cannot really find a proper word for it.
Yeah, yeah. This is
It's
also good,
as if,
when we struggle to find words to describe it, what we do is we examine what it is as we're doing that. So this is a good
mm,
process. It's good to not be able to find the words.
yeah, maybe it's a similar feeling to the feeling you get when you're walking down the street at nighttime and suddenly someone comes and touches you and you go like
Mm, mm.
that that very first moment. uh, Only it lasts longer
Yes, yes,
because
yes.
when that
It,
when that happens, when you're walking down the streets, it's just for a second and then it calms down.
yes, yes. So the
But
difference
here,
is, yeah, sorry to interrupt. The
yeah,
difference is when that person touches you in the street, right? It's the surprise that you respond to, the surprise and the possibility that some unpleasant thing is going to happen. That's that kind of surprise. But when that person walks away and you have relief that it's not going to be the case, it's no longer stimulated. So that
yes,
surge of survival hormones, right, the adrenaline, etc., that happens that gets you
yeah,
ready to fight or run away, that goes
hmm,
straight away because it's no longer stimulated, right? But in this case,
hmm,
when you're waking up, it does get re-stimulated. That's why it lasts longer, because any surge of hormones is going
yeah,
to be gone in 90 seconds. That's just the way hormones work. But but they keep getting stimulated. That's why it lasts longer.
yeah.
So you
And
could say that.
also,
Yeah, go on, you go.
it's something I wanted to add to this is that I noticed, I mean, not lately, I know this since quite some time, that I even get that sensation when there is something beautiful that excites me. For example, my son is coming back from abroad and I haven't seen him in a long time, and I'm really happy. I'm even able to get that same feeling or when it's, so to speak, positive thing. I
Mm,
say, but it's unbelievable. Why are you getting upset? It's like upset somehow about something that you're enjoying. This
mm,
doesn't happen every time, but sometimes when it's really something that touches me and I'm really happy,
mm,
I get that
mm.
same thing.
Yep, yep. Okay, that makes sense to me. In that there is very very little difference between the state of physiological excitement, whether you're excited in a positive way or excited in a frightened survival way,
Mm,
right? It's not, see, that's the thing, that sensation that you get of excitement is
mm,
probably almost, it could be exactly the same sensation. The difference between being frightened and being excited in a positive way are the stories that are attached to it. And so the stories of your son coming home and your excitement there turns that feeling of excitement into a positive feeling. The story of something that we don't recognize yet as not good.
oh, uh,
Yeah.
more or less, Vince, because I have examined that positive feeling, that what we call them positive,
Hmm.
but it's not really very pleasant anyway. It just looks like the intensity maybe is difficult to bear because it's really very intense.
Okay. Okay.
And
Okay.
it's so intense that I don't know if I can define it as positive.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So let's play with this. Let's imagine that that there is some imaginary point of no return, that if
Mm,
you get excited to a certain level, then the excitement will take over and run your life for moments at least. But the excitement will be uncontainable, uncontrollable. It will be over the top, and that
mm,
will have probably fairly devastating circumstances on anybody around you, but regardless. So so it could well be that it's wrong to call that morning one when you wake up a fright response. It could well be an excitement response, and that the tinge of fear, let's put it in inverted commas, the tinge of fear that you feel isn't about what excites you, but rather about how you're going to handle it. Right. So if it takes you past that point of no return, maybe you just become like an animal in your expression of whatever's going on, whether no matter whether it's good or bad or whatever it is. But you just see a lot of now. I'm only guessing, and I don't you I want you have to ask your intuition whether this sounds like it fits or not. So if it doesn't, well, of course we'll try something else. But these are stories that come up here, yeah,
mm.
as possibles.
Well, yes, yes, I like an animal. This feeling that I am describing only in it was constant. I was in this sort of hyper vigilant, extreme state, day and night. I was sleeping only 1, 2 hours per night for a period of time. This is exactly what led to my awakening 8 years ago.
Hmm. Hmm.
So my fear then was to lose my mind, to go crazy.
Mm. Okay. Okay. Oh,
That
yeah.
was then. But if I analyze now, I'm not afraid of going crazy. Or
Okay. So
maybe this fear is very hidden somewhere. I don't know.
yes, of
I
course, of
can't I
course.
can't find it.
So
Hmm.
you allow for the possibility, right? But of course, when you analyze it, we need to define and look at what we call analyzing. So is that analyzing a mental process that you go through, or is it more what I recommend that we do is investigate, not analyze. Analyze happens all in the head, if we use it in the literal term
Yeah,
of the of meaning of the word. Right? So you end up with looking for answers in the head. So you play with all of the things in the head, and you end up with something that's just in the head. It doesn't help. Right? What
yes, I
what we need
understand
to
this
change is
this
somewhere
means.
else. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this was the process then. It went up in the head. I'm talking about 2 years ago, and it was very much here. It was an activation. It felt like I was thinking five different things at the same time. But
Hmm.
this is not like this. Now sometimes I'm in need of a good word because I'm not fluent at English anymore. So I said analyzing. It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
that
Okay.
I'm
Good.
trying to
Good.
analyze it.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah.
It was in former times. It was in my head, but now I'm just I'm trying to feel into it. I'm trying to look at it, question what is it, where is it coming from, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
That's that.
sometimes I don't use the proper word.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. And you do please correct me, or let's get it better, because the language is a pain in the ass. Actually, so we can never say what we mean. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I hear you saying something that I find encouraging, but let's look at that as well. And that is that it is never about what it appears to be about. It's never about what the content of the story is, right? That's always that's always a decoy to take us away from it. It is always about the reason why the thing turned up. So it's not about your reaction. Right? I mean, of course, it is about your reaction, but but our focus is not about your reaction. It's about why your reaction is there, and why is not
Mm-hmm.
why. Why again leads us a little bit astray. Of course, we want to know why, but we don't really care why. What we want is for it not to be there. But by finding out why is our best opportunity for it not to be there. But why doesn't mean we find a comfortable reason. Why means we become aware of what the conditions are that trigger something else, something that's deeper. Right? Now that so we can say with you that we or have already established that there is some link, at least intellectually, and probably more than intellectual, but there is some link with your actual birth experience that this is here for. And when it goes back that far, even anything earlier than maybe 3 years old, and there isn't even language in order for something to be remembered, it's going to be held purely in the body, any memory of that experience. Um, and so the answers for what the link is between that, if this is what that link is about, and it may well be, it may not be either, but that link is going to be held in the body. So to get close to what we're looking for, it is a case of reading the body. And of course, when we read the body, we can't actually express what we're seeing, what we're intuiting in words without simplifying it, without almost changing the meaning. We have to make it so simple to express it in words. So the the thing that you're looking for as your way into this stuff is definitely going to be a body thing. It's not the only involvement that your mind might have would be as an expression of your intuition to
Mm-hmm.
tell you something in words that may or may not be accurate, but depending on the feeling with it, you'll get an idea of whether it is or not. So it's not a case of deciphering what the body's going to tell you in a way that you can write a story about it. But there will be feelings like release and relief and letting go and opening up and so on that will be probably fairly vague in terms of being able to see what they're associated with. But that's not the issue. The issue is for your body to let go of whatever it's hanging on to. And that can happen without us ever getting an idea of what it is. We don't need to know what it is for that to happen. We just need to know that
As
it's
far
there.
I have a question, Vince. I have noticed that when I wake up with this, I just stay there lying in bed, trying to, just to feel into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then comes after a little while comes an urge to stretch,
Yes,
really,
yes,
you could tell me, well, everybody stretches in the morning, but it's a sort it's there is a difference, but there
yes,
is this
yes,
urge, to stretch. So I have been watching this for a long time. I don't know if this is a way of escaping, because to be there, it's really intense. So I have tried to not to give way to this wanting to stretch, and just remain, um without moving my body, just feeling, because my mind has interpreted it, maybe I'm trying to escape by stretching. But then there is another voice that says, well, maybe your body wants to stretch, and this is the way your body wants to release something.
Mm-hmm.
So I have tried both, but I haven't found an answer.
Yeah.
I'm still
So this
every.
is
Mhm.
so yeah, you I love it. I love what you're saying. Yeah. You if you watch any animal that has a scare, gets frightened in any way, what they'll do is they will shake
Yes,
afterwards.
I have read by Peter Levine these books. I know they do that. They
Yes.
shake,
And
Mine
so it
is not shaking. It's really
no, that's
different.
okay. That's okay. So but we're human. We can't shake like an animal. You know how a dog can shake the water off himself? We can't do that no matter how hard we try.
Okay.
But animals do it. Yeah. Um, so look, here's the thing. You've got you can see that two stories come up. One can be that maybe it's an escape to give way to that feeling
Hmm.
of stretching. And another one is that maybe it's an expression of something that the body wants to do, right?
Exactly.
That's some kind of a release from this situation. Now, the third story that I would like to see come along that says either of those stories could be right or wrong. We don't know, and it doesn't matter, right? So what?
So what do we do?
That's exactly right. What do? We listen to what the body wants. Okay, so we give the body some credibility here. We allow the
Okay.
body an intelligence that we can't connect with. And that says
Okay.
if the body wants to stretch, play with it, right? Allow it to happen, help it to happen, because the brilliance of this stuff is it comes up almost every morning, and so you get plenty of chances to play with it. So tomorrow morning,
Yes.
let it go and see what happens the moment it wants to, and just see what it's and use your intuition to ask your body, how did that feel? What was it? Was it good? Was it what was the point of that
Yes,
one? You
it
know what I
feels
mean?
good. No,
Yes, yeah.
because I tend to be a little bit uh, what is the word again for this? Merciless on myself. I don't know.
Yes, yes,
So,
yes.
then if I stretch, there is such a relief, and then my mind goes like, you're escaping something there.
Mm. Yeah,
But
so
there
let me
is relief. So yeah, so I might as well go like, okay, your body knows, so you just go for it.
yeah, so
What do you think?
let's say maybe the body knows. I don't know whether the body
Mm,
knows. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't, but I'm going to try it and see if the body knows. Yeah.
mm. Okay. Okay.
So any story that comes up, whether it's about how good it is or bad it is, or anything in between those two, any stories that turn up are just going to decoy you away from where you need to go. So we want this shaking, if it occurs, to be a way into telling us more about what's going on. And so, in order to do
Mm,
that, we have to not be arrogant and condescending and tell the body what we think it knows. We have to be really vulnerable and open to what it might suggest. And it might even try us out, so
mm,
to speak. It might even in the beginning suggest a couple of possibilities just for it to see our reaction to that. And our reaction needs to be one of curiosity. Oh, but maybe that's it. Maybe. Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, we'll just wait and see. We've got plenty of opportunity for it to tell us again and again until the message gets through. Right? But we can
mm.
assume that the body always wants to tell us what's going on. We just overwhelm it with thought stuff most of the time, so we don't even hear it. We don't even know half the stuff that goes on in our body because we're too busy in our head to take notice.
Mm.
And this is only a stage
Yeah.
as well. Yeah, go.
Yeah, I was just going to offer something in there, Sylvia, because your talking before inspired me to look up TRE, which I've heard multiple times in talks that I've been listening to online. And so I just looked it up, and it is trauma releasing exercises. And so that's all I know really about it at this stage, because I literally just Googled it just then. But I thought I might just add it because when I've been, listening to stuff, related to what we're talking about at the moment, that has come up multiple times and people have said it's been useful. So just thought I'd
okay, thank you.
Mention it again, yeah. Because I think there is something in that body stuff, especially if it comes from very early trauma, which is unlikely to ever be understood through the brain. It's very hard to get a deep understanding, or even if an understanding through the brain would even help that much. I don't know. It's just a thought.
Yeah, thank you. I have done a few of those exercises for a few weeks, years ago. Maybe I should try again with well, it's a different time in my life, so maybe I could try again. I will look it up. Thank you. Because I have to look them up again, because I don't really remember what they were like. At that time, they didn't help, but this is a different time and they might as well,
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
I was enjoying that exploration with you both, because that was really interesting what you said about it being a very similar sensation to being excited about your son coming home. And just how sensations are quite hard to interpret often.
Yeah.
We go through this rather strange process where we, in the beginning, in that initial awakening, we kind of recognize that our thoughts have led us astray, so to speak, very loosely putting it, that we've given too much credibility to a certain class of thoughts. That's what we're learning in the beginning, I think. And then we recognize that our thoughts are limited in their ability to help us get at what's really going on for us. But almost straight away, the next little bit that comes back in is the recognition of how our thoughts do create our world. And so we come to a point where we're giving thoughts credibility again, but we're also a lot more, I was going to say, critical of the different nature of some thoughts and whether they're useful or not. So that comes back as we start to get back into giving thoughts a bigger part of our experience. or well, that's not strictly true, of course, as we give our response to thoughts a bigger credibility, but we're recognizing that now we're not responding in a helpless way that we used to once upon a time when we believed a whole lot of rubbish thoughts. So things have changed there. So there is this point where we give the body a lot of credibility as a way of getting out of our thoughts. But then there's a point comes where we recognize that our body is no more credible than our thoughts because our body is reacting to our thoughts. Right? But once we change the nature of our thoughts, our body's going to react differently. And so there is a bit of more of a coming together of the body-mind arrangement where they work in harmony rather than against each other or against themselves like they used to do once upon a time. So it's a tricky one, isn't it? Yeah. But at this stage, I'd say it's important that we see that it's one thing to say the body doesn't lie. The mind will lie. The body doesn't lie. But the body can give us a whole lot of inaccurate, or rather, the body's going to respond to our stories. So when our stories are off, our body's reactions are going to be off. So we go from believing the body in order to get out of our thoughts, and then to believing our body in order to get stuff that's beyond our thoughts. And then as we get all of that out of the road, or a lot of that out of the road, or even just some, maybe, I don't know, then we start to work with the two together again. That harmony comes back in where the body and the mind intertwine in a much more productive way. Yeah, hard to get words sometimes, but yeah. So it's really now a case of developing sensitivity to the messages that the body wants to give, but recognizing that we can know that the body wants to give us a message without having to be able to write that message down, without having to be able to translate it into something that we can communicate. So that message, could be something as simple as allow, or I want to hold on, constrict. We don't even know what it's about, kind of thing, but we give it credibility in order to find out what it might be about. Listening to it sensitively, yeah. And even if we don't get a clear message about what it is about, that's okay. It will or it won't happen. So we don't know. See, this is my mind running amok here. I worked out how to talk dog. And really that's interesting. A dog has an incredibly limited language. It has a tail wag, and it has a lick, and it has a paw on you, and sometimes and occasionally it'll have a bark, right? And that's about it. That's the whole language it's got. So a lot of the times when you're talking dog, it's just a case of how you look. I want to look. My dog can tell me that it wants a treat by looking at me. All it does is sits there and look at me, and it can tell me that that's what it wants. So it's and talking our body is a little bit the same as that. It's got a limited vocabulary, but we have to be really sensitive to pick up what it's trying to tell us, and we can never be sure, but we can test out what we think it is, and then that way we can either go with it or not go with it. Yeah. That sounded like a waffle to say nothing, but that sensitivity to the body message is really a good trick. Yeah.
Do you have other, apart from this sensation that is happening to you every day from waking, how is the rest of your conversation with your body, like Vince was just talking about?
No, I think we have a good communication. Seems to me.
Yeah. Mm.
So we could presume things like your body trusts you. Yeah, it's able to be more direct with you than maybe once upon a time, or maybe for other people. Who knows? Whatever. But that good communication, because you've been practicing for a long time, you've been doing this since you woke up, I guess, and that means that the body and you have a certain relationship, which is excellent, really, really good stuff. Yeah. And so one can almost presume that the reason that it hasn't showed you what this is about yet is because it is trying to look after you. Maybe it thinks you're not ready to see what this is about yet, or maybe that's total bullshit too. Maybe, but you do have a good friendly relationship with your body. Your body will tell you things because you're open to it. Yet it hasn't told you about this yet. What do you reckon? What is it, because you're not ready to see it? Is it because you won't understand it? Is it because of fear of the consequences of it? Of course you don't know. They're all questions. They're just questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Mm.
Mm. They seem, like it feels maybe it's just, just arrogance, but I feel ready. I feel ready. And
Yes.
I don't fear the consequences. That at least that's what it seems to me.
Yes, right. Yep. Yeah. And you've got to go with that. That's it. That's what you've got to go with. Yeah. So it becomes a bigger question, doesn't it? It becomes a question. Well, why hasn't it been revealed to me? Isn't it curious that it hasn't? Don't you think? It's just, wonder why.
And then there's the second question. If it's revealed to me, does this mean it will dissolve?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe
I
not.
mean, it seems logical that if a content is revealed, then there's no need for it to stay there the same,
Yeah.
at least.
That's a good logic. Yeah.
But yeah, but this is my logic. Are things really like that?
Yeah. It
Who
may be.
knows?
It may be. See, it would depend on whether or not what it is some kind of aberration. It may not be, it may not be that at all. What if, now here's just a fantasy that came to mind a second ago. What if it's your body celebrating waking up, and it's giving you a boost to jump out of bed instead of dragging yourself out like I might if I don't really feel like I've had enough sleep, And so
Okay.
it's a possibility that we're treating it as
Yeah.
though it were a problem when it's actually not a problem. That's a
Well,
possibility.
that's a totally new interpretation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I had not looked at this. I will try to celebrate next time I get out of bed, and I will try to see it that way. I haven't
yeah,
looked
yeah,
at it from that perspective.
yeah, sure. So it will be a nice experiment. Yeah. See, the thing is that a lot of this,
Yeah.
as you say, a lot of these things are so close together that the difference between what we call them is just our interpretation of them.
Just something coming up now. It's like, and if it were that in this you know, when the day presents itself, you know, live again every morning, the world manifesting, you know, it's like it's manifesting, it's like exploding, but at the same time, there is a contraction of this
Yes.
expansive state
Yeah,
that you
yeah,
have
yeah.
during the night. So it's like a pain there in that moment, a fear, pain, I don't know what to call it,
Yes,
but
absolutely, yeah.
uh,
So you've moved from being as big as the universe and you're contracted back into this body in order to do the day thing. You've come out
yeah,
of one
if
so expansive state, and that snap back,
yeah,
snap back into that tiny little thing called a body. Well, that would be traumatic, wouldn't it? You know, in a way, it would be. Yeah.
yes, because it feels like from total freedom, it's like all of a sudden, you know, being
Yes. Here
here,
you are in this
that
puny body. Yeah. Yeah.
something of the sort. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I
so what I think is happening, and what I would love to see and confirm that is happening, is what we have got here today is an opening up of the possibilities of what it might be about, and just real curiosity and really excitement about discovery, and just let's imagine, and let's think of what other perspectives could we bring to this, besides it being a good one or a bad one. There is this contraction into the body one. I like that story. Right? There's all sorts of possibilities that we may have not even thought of yet. Right.
Mm.
And so right, so the next thing for you is that I hope it doesn't go away too quickly. I want it to keep going every morning until we get something out of this. I really look forward to this happening.
It's a little bit a difficult one.
Okay.
I'm I'm at I'm working at accepting because I have no choice anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
But you know, looking forward, I think I'm not quite there yet.
yeah, yeah, yeah. See, so accepting, and see, this is a good example of accepting too. So there is accepting, like, oh, here we go again. I'm resigned to the fact that I've just got to go through this. There's that kind of accepting, or there's an accepting that says, "Bring it on, baby. Come on in. I want some of this." That kind of accepting is a lot more active. Totally different.
Yeah.
Totally different acceptings. I want to see the last one more than the first one. I don't want this resignation kind of accepting.
No, no. Okay,
No.
okay.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
well, mine is in between the two. It's sort of neutral at the moment. It's
Okay.
not resigned, but it's not like I'm
Yeah. So,
excited about
okay.
it
So let's
happening.
let's let's try a bit of that. Fake it if you like, right? Let's push it a little bit to that one, just
Okay.
just as a way of getting the balance back away from the negative one a little bit. And we don't know where it's going to end up. It's just that we're just playing with it. It's
Okay.
yeah. I mean,
Right.
because your life is so good, normally speaking, the usual experience for you in life is really good, eh? Is that true?
Yeah, I mean it's flowing good or less good. It's pretty pretty flowing. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay, you know.
Yep. Yeah. That sounds pretty good to me. Yeah.
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 Okay, I will keep you updated. And probably I won't be there on Saturday because I think I don't have an internet connection on Saturday. So
Okay.
maybe next Wednesday or so I will hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Whenever. Yeah.
Okay.
Sylvia, could I
Okay.
just add one more little perspective? A little bit like Vince's idea of, being excited waking up into the day. I wondered whether it possibly could be a bit of an internal alarm clock. And I remembered last week you said there was something about your actual real birth that was really prolonged and was like you needed to get out, like and you also said last week that it didn't happen if you woke up earlier than you normally did for some other
Unexpected,
kind of
yeah.
reason. So that made me kind of ponder whether it was like the body's way of saying, like, time to get out now, time to go, time to stop sleeping. And maybe that does snap you back into your body. Like, just that might be a different way of thinking. Well, I don't know if you need to think about it or feeling about it, or might make a difference. Might be something to play with.
Okay, thank you for that perspective. I will feel into it. Thank you.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Cheneth, you're a new face. Is that how we say your name, Cheneth?
Yeah, that's how you pronounce my name. Hi. Yeah, this is my first time here, and yeah, I felt a little bit of anxiety, a little bit when I first joined because it's my first time and I don't really know how it works. But yeah, yeah, I'm doing just fine, and I actually have a lot of identification today. Uh, I was a lot of ego today. I still have a lot of anxiety. Um, and yeah, I was doing the doubt curriculum by Pernille, and I was really feeling into the body, but like Sylvia told, I had a lot of doubts coming up if I should trust the body, if I was in my head, I was stuck in my head, and I really started believing it that I'm ego now and I can get out of it, and I tried to accept, but that felt like a chore more than accepting. And yeah, I don't know, it was very weird today. Yeah, very odd.
So have you recognized the delusion that a self-controlling your life and running the show is?
I do think so. So yeah, a lot of anxiety right now. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, let me have a rant for a minute here about these meetings, There are no rules. Well, I say that, but no rules that I've ever had to enforce have come up, kind of thing. So anything goes. I don't care what language you use. Nobody cares if you swear or not swear. Okay, there is most value for you and for other people if you're authentic. If you just open your mouth and let shit come out, don't worry about what it is you're going to say, right?
Yeah.
Any idea that other people have of you is none of your business. It's about them. It's not about you. So don't matter what other people think of you. Okay.
Yeah.
And what you'll find here at these meetings is great open-heartedness and people really willing to support and be interested in what goes on for you, want to help you. Everybody wants to help. Yeah. And usually at this meeting there are it's a bit of a joke, a bit of an in-joke about people who are awake or not awake, and what, of course, the people who are awake realize that there's no such thing as being awake. It's just a case of, well, some things have happened in their life and things have changed, but nobody wears a badge that says they're awake or not awake. So we get all levels of waking up happening here in these groups, and every one of them, the least awake to the most awake, is wants good stuff for you. And no matter who says anything, somebody's going to get some value out of it. There'll be somebody who identifies with what you say. So, yeah, don't worry about it. It's everything.
Yeah.
Just let it hang out, man. Just let it hang out. Anything
Yeah.
goes. Come late, leave early. You don't have to be polite and apologize. You don't have to say goodbye when you go. Just be here or not here. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
I want
So
to say that this is what I so much appreciate. I will say to Chinat, what is
It's
Chinat,
pronounced Chinat. Yeah, that's fine.
Chinat,
It's all right.
I'm here maybe for the fourth or fifth time, so I'm not an oldie. I appreciate this, that you can really be and stay or not say, and it's so genuine. And the other thing I appreciate here is that I don't see people making an identity out of being awake, because this is what happens in other circles so much. As soon as something has happened and something has been seen here, they start going like, wow, I'm the awake one. And such bullshit. I don't see this here. I haven't
Good,
seen it
isn't
so
it?
far.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, uh,
Chinath. Hi, Chinath.
Hi. Hi, Tyler.
What do you want?
What do I want? What does that mean?
What else could
I
it mean?
imagine he's saying, "Why are you here?"
Yeah, why are you here? What do you?
Okay. Uh, I think because I have been doing my practice like in yeah, the word. I have been
Solitude
in,
by yourself.
yeah, I was doing my practice by myself, and I realized that last time I came to the meeting, I had a lot of anxiety in like even turning my mic on, and so much reaction happening. And yeah, I think that's something that is very worthwhile exploring by coming on here and being this.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's in a way this can be a great test of, well, I say test. It's the idea that if we feel anxious when we talk, of course we're selfing at that time. Okay, so we've got this identity going where we go, oh, I hope they think good things about me, right? Or whatever, whatever comes out there, those stories. And regardless of where we are on the path, as if there is a path, that's a joke too. But regardless of how much experience we've had with this stuff, it's going to keep happening. It's going to keep happening that we discover in our behavior or in our feelings or in our words, and words give it away to me a lot, for myself, we're going to discover where we still identify. Right? Now there's two possibilities here. You know, that's why I asked that question earlier about where you're up to if you've seen through self. Right? If you've seen through self, there's two possibilities. Well, there's probably more, but two come to mind. And one is that it's just a remnant of stuff left over. So we've developed through our life a whole lot of conditioned responses to things, and a lot of those conditioned responses that we've developed they're defensive, usually defensive responses, right? And what are we defending? We're defending, we don't know what we're defending, but we assume we're defending ourselves. But when we start to investigate, you know, what we're defending is not really, doesn't make sense, you know, because this self that we're defending is just an idea. It's not real, you know? But here we are ready to put our fists up and have a fight with somebody over our reputation, what they think of us. Who gives a shit what they think of us? But if we do, it's because we're protecting something, and so we're doing that. Now, once we see through self, we go, okay, well, there's nothing to protect anymore, nothing to defend, so we let it go. But then certain conditions turn up, and we suddenly find ourselves in a defensive mode again. We're going, oh, that's not right. Oh yeah, no, I'm not like that at all, or something, you know, whatever the story is that comes up. So here we are, we discover that we're defending, and then we go, oh, hey, what's going on here? Oh, look, I'm defending myself. What a joke that is. So we then have a humorous response to the fact that we've recognized that we were defending something, and that recognition is us stepping outside of it and seeing that it's going on. And it just goes away. It just dissolves. It stops. It doesn't come back again either, unless it does. And if it comes back again, it could be that, well, we just need to look a little bit harder at what's going on, look a bit underneath it, maybe look at what's going on. Or maybe it's based on something that's a bit deeper. And a lot of the stuff that we learn is that way. It is deeper. We call it shadow work, just as because it's in the shadows. It's not obvious. It's out of sight, right? And they are things that are probably trauma-based things. So, and what we call trauma isn't necessarily extreme stuff. It can be, you know, a baby hungry and not getting fed is in trauma, right? But if that happened on a regular basis, that baby's going to start to feel, maybe have abandonment issues, for example. It's just a possibility. And that can be developed way before language is developed, and it can be refined as we get older, and we can learn different ways to avoid this abandonment feeling of being abandoned. This is just an example. We learn different ways to avoid that feeling, because it's not a good feeling at all, you know, to feel like we've been left out in the cold to die. Nobody cares for us, whatever. Right? So that feeling, we don't want to feel that feeling. Because it's pretty scary. And we've been fairly successful throughout the years in avoiding getting close to that feeling. And ironically, that's a lot of what we call personality. Our personality develops, and that's one of the characteristics that might be there, that any idea, any circumstances in our life that might trigger us to feel abandonment, we don't like, we'll keep away from. We don't want to go near those things. But in spite of that, they happen sometimes, and we're in it. And if it's one of those things that comes up and we see that we were lost in the story, instead of it just dissipating, it'll keep coming back. It'll keep coming back until we till we handle those abandonment issues in that case. But that's how we know it's not a remnant, the fact that it keeps on coming back. So there will be, and remnants will happen forever and ever. And maybe you might go 10 or 12 years like I did before something triggers something that's sitting on shadow work. that's there. You know, we just haven't, it just hasn't come up. We haven't had to deal with it. We don't know it's there even until something happens and shows us that it is there. But in most cases, that's a heavy duty thing. And in most cases, it's not. It's just remnants, just habit of selfing. Right. So when we self, this is a big one. When we self and we catch it, we recognize that we were doing selfing stuff. We celebrate that fact. It's great. We caught it happening. And that gives us the chance to kind of leave it alone, to get away from it. And if it never happened, we wouldn't even know it existed. We would just be responding in whatever way we respond to certain circumstances. So it's a good thing when we see that selfing happening. It's not a bad thing. Doesn't mean you've lost it. Doesn't mean you've gone backwards. What it means is there's just something else there to work on. And that's something to celebrate. That's a good thing. So yeah, we like it when shit turns up.
Yeah.
So now that yeah. And of course I delude myself if I think that by telling you something that's going to change things for you. But take it as this way, that a lot of these things are seeds that will germinate if they've got the right conditions. So that idea. So what I caught you saying earlier on, what I heard you say, what I interpreted you as saying was that too much selfing happens and I don't want it to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the gist of it. Yeah. I guess I tried to say that, you know, identification there's nothing wrong with identifying with something and whatnot, but there's no belief. I guess that's also a story again, but there's no belief in that thought. That's what I thought at that moment, is that I didn't feel like I believed the fact that identification is not bad. And I felt like it was out of my control, and this is special, and this is permanent. Yeah.
Well, I think you're right in terms of it being out of your control and so on. The identification itself as it happens is not never the issue. You know, it's just some circumstances have triggered that behavior. So the relevance for us is what was triggered. Not even the circumstances. If we start to recognize the circumstances that trigger it, that can be really useful and helpful. We can put ourselves in that circumstance in order to get something happening sometimes. That can be valuable too. But essentially, do you get that good and bad are stories of our society? And there are variations depending on what culture we have, but nevertheless, they're pretty much the same. They're stories that are made up. There is no actual good or bad in anything, no matter whether you take an inanimate object or an animal or a person. There is no good or bad. There is just behavior, and we apply a good or bad story to it. That's what good or bad is. It's just a story. Just like the self is just a story. But it does exist. It does exist as a story. So the self exists as a huge number of chapters in a book. Even at your young age, Shanath, there are many chapters about you in that book of you. There are chapters of things you like and chapters of things you don't like and chapters of how you look and chapters of all sorts of things. You name it. There's things about you that are the story of you, and the experience of you is your response to those stories. just as good or bad is only a story, but we can still respond to those stories in a pleasant or unpleasant way, depending on what it is and what our story is about it. So when we come to that selfing is happening, it isn't good or bad, but it is an opportunity. And that opportunity is for you to investigate what triggered it and what exists that enabled it to be triggered. Now again, we're not after answers. We're not, you know, so although these are all questions and they seem to point to something, it's not that something that's of interest to us. It's what we discover as we look in that direction. And so that's always the biggest thing with it. When we say we're inquiring or investigating or examining, right, it's never about some end result. It is always about what we discover on the way. And that's what we're looking to do. So when we say, oh, I caught myself selfing there, you know, of course, in the background, there is a thing that says maybe one day that won't happen. And that would be a good thing. You know, that's just another story. And it could be true too, or not. Who knows, you know? But that's just a story. And see how it takes us away from the actual happening? We're starting to think about one day and all that stuff. Right? The actual happening is trying to tell us something. It's trying to tell us that what we have is a belief somewhere that we're responding to. And we're ultimately patient. So one day that belief might reveal itself to us. And we'll be happy if that happens. And we won't care if it doesn't happen. It's just a possibility. Yeah.
I see.
Mm.
Yeah.
So if every time you self from now on, you bring to it a different attitude to what you used to bring to it, we'll have achieved something today. Not that achievement's a big deal either, but yeah, that would be pretty good. That'll imagine how much less stress there'll be in your life if you're not thinking, oh, bugger, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, there I was selfing again. Oh.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stress in that body as a result of that. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden we can go, yeah, go on.
Yeah. I yeah. So I think I don't usually, you know, critique myself of how many times I self. I come to accept it usually. Maybe I'm being arrogant, but uh I think I do come to accept that selfing is fine and it's natural, and there's something underlying beneath me
Right.
selfing.
Yeah.
Uh yeah, yeah, today wasn't different. Today was today. And
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I just, yeah, just some thoughts came up, and some stuff happened, but they're not real anymore. Is that bypassing, would you say? Oh, that's another thought again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have a thought that dismisses a feeling, and the feeling actually does go because of that thought, that dismissive thought, oh, it's just another whatever, or what, yeah, that's bypassing. So bypassing is a little bit like achieving a short-term end result uh, without relieving the reason for it. Right? So it's symptom treatment. That's all.
Yeah.
It's a band-aid. You know, it's yeah. It can be useful for sure, but it doesn't generally have long-term consequences that we want. Often it'll have long-term consequences that we don't want, you know, because as we suppress things, we just keep on being stressed out, even if we don't realize it sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's another rant that I often get on is about labels, and labels are a good trick. Labels are really useful when it comes to communicating things, but the recognition that the level that we are communicating when we're using labels, in fact with most words, is a very superficial level. It's simplistic. It is so simple that it's simplistic. It's almost at that level that uh, what happens with when we say a label, when we say things like fear or anxiety or anything like that we have a label for, it does in normal social interaction get a message across that you want to get across, and that's all, but it's vague. So one person's anxiety is not at all like another person's anxiety. Everybody's got a unique experience of that whole thing. So, but it does the job, you know. I'm anxious, and you get the message, and that's okay, you know. But a label points to things. A label is a shorthand way of talking about something else that's deeper down, and it's more complex than that. And the problem is that the moment we use a label, that's what people are responding to. People respond to labels, and that if you look at any TV show, or if you look at any of society, your family interacting with each other, whatever, you'll see people bandying about labels. They bounce off labels back and forward, back and forward, back and forward all the time. But nobody gets deeper. Nobody gets to feel like that somebody else really understands what's actually they're experiencing, because labels keep it at the surface level. So when you recognize that you're using a label, that's also an invitation to look at what it's pointing at. Right? And here's gets a little trickier and much more interesting too. So then under labels, we're going to have feelings. And when you investigate a feeling, you discover that what a feeling is a sensation with stories hanging off it. Right? So the sensation itself doesn't even get close to a feeling until we put a label on it. And the moment we put a label on it, we've introduced the story component of that feeling. So down there are sensations and stories. And one way to find out what they're about is to get close to the sensation. And then as you do, as you get more and more intimate with the sensation, you recognize that it's not fixed, it's not stable, it is always changing, and it's moving, and it varies. And as you get really close to it, it'll probably disappear. But the stories have fallen off it on the way to getting there. But if it's one of these shadow things, then that's how you get to what it's sitting on. Underneath that, when it disappears, there'll be another feeling, which will be more sensations and stories that go back further, that are foundation of that which has come up. But don't worry too much about that stuff. It's just the way I think is what I'm telling you, kind of thing. So the idea though is just to start at this stage to get below labels, beneath labels, find out, look at what they're pointing at, and life gets really interesting.
Yeah. I think Pranile talks about that a lot. And I
Okay,
have
good.
been doing that. And right now, when I try to do that, the thought that I keep going back to is uh I have a lot of thoughts about proving myself that I'm this, I'm that, and uh maybe I should try touch my throat so that he knows that I'm investigating my anxiety right now. That's what comes up, imagery of other people looking at me. And something that sort of shifted me was Pranila was talking about that other people don't really, this is how I sort of interpreted it, but other people don't really exist. They sort of exist in my head, as in I create their monologues and all of that. And it did do some shift automatically that, I wouldn't know what that person is not really thinking those evil thoughts about me and whatnot. And that really changed things. And yeah, I don't know why I know why I went to that, to, again, I guess, show that I do actually have investigated a little bit about doubt. And yeah, I guess I'm trying to be a little bit more authentic. Yeah, about what the thoughts that come up, they're not so bad. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. No, you've definitely got hold of some of the tools that will help you get through this stuff and work it out. Yeah, that's good. Good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So what Penilla was saying about that, it's a valuable one to get a good grasp on, and it. I'll jump up on my soapbox again. Right. So this one's about the absolute and the relative. Right. So what we have. Right. So this is the way. I mean, a lot of this stuff you might know, but anyway, just bear with me. So we're walking down a pathway and we see a tree. Right? Then we look at what it is that we've seen. Right? And what we realize is that almost out of the corner of our eye, we just saw this shape that had a certain size and a certain color. And the brain said, that's a tree. Right? At that moment, we've got a label. And at that moment, under normal circumstances, that's what we'll relate to. We'll walk past that tree and we'll only ever relate to our idea of the tree that the brain produced when it recognized the shape and color and size as a tree. So the brain works this way. It's a predictive organ, and it takes the smallest amount of information that it requires to form an idea of what's going on. And then it'll do that idea in such a way that that's what we relate to from that moment on, unless something changes. So the only way that you're going to change from relating to the image of the tree to relating to the actual tree is if you go up and touch it. And if you go up and touch it, right, then what have you got? You've got sensation in your fingertips and you've got some vision in your eyes, but you're so close to it that you're not seeing the whole tree anymore. You're just seeing the trunk of the tree. So when you say what is it? In actuality, it's just a sensation in your fingertips as you touch it, and a sensation that comes from your eyes as you see the color of the thing and the texture of the bark and so on. And that's what you're relating to, your idea of what's come in. So what we've got is we've got your interpretation of what's coming in to the senses. And then we've got what the what causes those sensory inputs to happen, right? So in the case of the eyes, it's the light bouncing off the bark in such a way that it produces a color of brown or gray or whatever the color is. And it's different in there because it's a dimple, and there because it's a little lump, and so on and so on. So then we've got, so what we've actually got is something made up. But that made up is the result of something that is actual, right? That thing that we called a tree. So there's actual, and if we approach it scientifically, we can say, well, there's bark, and then there's true wood and heartwood and sapwood and leaves and branches and all these other labels that we come up with, and that we've analyzed scientifically. We can talk about that stuff, but still, what that thing actually is unknowable to us as humans. We can't know. We can pretend that we do, but we can't actually know what it is. And when you think about it, if I lined up you and a dog and a cat and a cricket, some kind of insect, and they all looked at that same tree, every one of them is going to see something entirely different, right? It's personal, what you see. And if I lined up 2 people or 100 people, every one of them is going to see something a bit different, right? They can all agree that it's called a tree, but their actual experience is unique to them. It's different to everybody else. You may have even experienced this if you stand with a mate beside you and you're looking at a bluey, greeny car, and he says it's blue and you say it's green. You can't agree, but your experience is, and it's the same car. And yet one will say it's blue and one will say it's green or whatever. You know what I mean? You've had that experience. Well, so everybody experiences things in their own unique way. And that comes about because of the DNA, the way the body's built, and it comes about because of experience, what we've learned throughout our lifetime about these things. And so somebody who's a botanist and spends a lot of time in the classroom studying a tree will have a totally different experience of looking at a tree than what you'll have, or somebody who's never seen a tree before. They live in the desert or something, you know. All of a sudden, totally different things. So what? Now, all right. Let me jump sideways to another one, and that is the old koan. If a tree falls in the forest and there's nobody there, is there a sound? What's your thoughts about that? There's no right or wrong answer here, but go. Yeah. What's your first thought?
I guess there's no sound because there's no perception of the sound was
You
what
got it.
came up with.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. So what we have is vibrating air when the tree falls, right? And it takes that vibrating air to hit an ear. And then the ear takes that vibrating thing and turns it into vibrating bones. And those vibrating bones turn it into a nerve signal. And that nerve signal travels up into the brain, and the brain decides that, oh, this is a sound, and actually gives you the experience of a sound, right? But until the brain's processed it, there's no sound. Until the brain has processed it, there's no light. Until the brain has processed it, there's no touch, right? Everything happens in the brain, including your construction of the world and your construction of other people. Right? So there is an absolute, but we have no idea what that is. We can't comprehend it. Our human brain is too puny to comprehend the complexity of what is actually there, whether we call it a person or a tree or a mountain or anything, doesn't matter. Right? But what we perceive and what we respond to is absolutely personal.
Yeah.
The whole world and everybody. And you can only ever imagine what others are thinking. Sometimes you might be more right than others, but sometimes you might be a lot more wrong than others too. Yeah. So that kind of puts it into perspective for me anyway, that what other people think is literally, absolutely got nothing to do with you. It's all their experience. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. sometimes it can be useful to interact with that. If you're trying to achieve a certain thing with a speech, for example, then it's important to know how other people respond to you. But when it comes to how good you are or not, it's bullshit. Not worth getting into. Yeah. So anyway, that's me doing way too much talking. So also, I did mean to say, and I forgot earlier on, if you've got something to say, just jump in, wait for a pause and jump in with it. Don't worry about offending anybody. Don't worry about being polite. You do not have to put your hand up. Just talk if you've got something to say. Sometimes we end up talking over each other, but we get around that. That's all right. We live with it. Yeah. So the idea is that what somebody else says will trigger a thought for you. And if that's relevant in terms of you've got something to look at, then jump in with it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you, Tyler?
I'm good.
Good. Christy?
I'm all right. I have a question.
Yeah, go.
Today anyway, I watched Pernilla's video on the toxic starting point, and I thought I was number 2, the passive aggressive bully, because I have like a lot of those physical symptoms, and she kept saying like, but anyway, then the last one, the chameleon, what she was saying, like, I felt horrible about it, and I tried to sit in my body with it, but I couldn't really feel anything. And when I did manage to feel stuff, then like my limbs kind of felt numb. And so it was like a valve. I try and sit with it and feel horrible, and then kind of feel numb and then cry. And then like the valve would turn off, and then I kind of wander around, and then I try it again, and the valve would open up and I'd feel horrible. And it just kept happening. And so it's unpleasant, and I assume the valve will just keep going until something is done. I don't know for how long, but if you have any advice, that would be great.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, nothing jumped up as you were talking, but except that I'm curious. I want to know more. So be a bit more specific about the valve and what came up, what was coming up.
Oh, so in that description, Pernilla was saying that like just like past and future don't feel safe, and things feel like, I mean, it just reminded me that for most of my life, I haven't liked being alive. Like I've been actually suicidal, like a lot. But I mean, this year, finally, in the like last fall or winter, I didn't feel like, I would prefer, I'm a little more neutral now, but just when she was talking about that, it was just like this sensation of like intense fear. And I mean, I didn't think of it as fear because I couldn't really feel my body. But and she said to just do being meditation. It's just sitting and being. And that just felt really awful. And it, you know, kind of reminded me of how sometimes I have not, I guess they just call them non-dual experiences. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I have that. And then like after, I mean, I just don't really want it to, I mean, a lot of times I don't want it to come back, or it's just not going to come back until I've gone somewhere else on the path and it's going to feel different. So, but yeah, so just today I just kept trying the being just to sit and, you know, look at the leaves and just be, and it just really, I guess, scared me to be alive.
Mm, mm. So tell me about being scared. Where do you feel being scared?
You know, it reminds me of the sensation that I just assume is agoraphobia. Like I just, it's more when I go outside and it just feels like the sky is aware of me and touching me, and I don't know why. That's just hard.
Yeah. So does that feel good or bad, or something else?
It just feels intimidating. Like I
Right.
yeah. Usually I try to pretend it's not happening. Because other people don't seem to have that problem. But anyway, but yeah, it's just kind of intimidating because I'm not sure. I guess because I'm not sure what the sky thinks of me or whatever, like what or whatever's aware of me. I mean, you know, at some point in the past, I did realize that it was probably just projection on presence. But I mean, but you know, today that's what that fear felt like, was just that agoraphobia. So
Oh. Yeah. Did you follow when I was talking to Chenath about labels?
about what?
Labels?
Yes. I mean, now I feel like, I mean, I heard it and I was paying attention. I
Mm.
don't really remember at this
Yeah,
moment.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah, yeah. So when you say agoraphobia, that's a classic one. Okay, there's a label. And if you took that label to some practitioner, that's what they're going to treat, that label. They're not going to treat you. They're not even going to see you as a person. They're going to treat agoraphobia. Right. Now, so that's all quite beside the point, really. But for you, here and now, to use a label like that is a way to not get in touch with those things that you're describing as that. Right? So that normally would be a sensation that comes over a feeling that comes over the body when you even think about going outside. Or maybe it requires you to go to the front door and look outside to get that feeling, or maybe it requires you to actually go outside to get that feeling. But that feeling that you're calling agoraphobia is way more complex than that label can appreciate. And so there are sensations and there are stories, and there are associations between those things as well. So the idea of when you catch yourself using a label, there is good value in looking at what the label points at, specifically for you, what your experience is that label is pointing at, that you say. So if you say, to get that feeling that you're calling agoraphobia, do you need to go outside, or can you get it at the door, or do you just need to think about it?
I can have it if I just think about it.
Yep. Okay. So when you do, right, a certain feeling occurs to you, right?
Mhm.
Presumably there's a feeling of what, a label, fear, or a label, anxiety, right? Or a label, constriction, or contraction. These are all labels that refer to something that might occur to you when that feeling comes on that you're calling agoraphobia. So it's only by looking at what gets stimulated in you that label points to, that you even get close to the possibility of seeing what it rests on, what stimulated that feeling, what were the conditions that brought it on. And it seems like a bit obvious, and it seems a bit stupid in a way to say, well, I just got to think about going outside and that'll bring it on. But that's not what it's about. So another thing that I said earlier that I'd like to emphasize is it's never about the story that comes up. Right? So the idea of going outside that brings on that certain feeling for you is not about, that's not what this feeling is about. Right? There is that association, but we're working backwards through them. We're working backwards, so we have the feeling, and the feeling is trying to tell us something. And what that feeling is trying to tell us on the surface is don't go outside. But really, what that whole thing is about is to keep you away from some much deeper feeling that is way more intense, 100 times more intense. You want to attend to him or something?
It's my cat. He's on his
Okay.
cat tree. He's just
Yeah,
making
yeah.
a lot of noise. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. So if we were to start off with the feeling that came on with the idea of going outside, and we get close to that feeling and we recognize that it's sensation plus thoughts, right? And so you can just imagine that this is a process. So I just want to plant this seed in your mind. So nothing to do right now, but the idea is that first you have, if we're going backwards, you've got the feeling of dread. I can't do this. I'm not going to go. Right. Then you go, well, that was triggered by the idea of going outside. Right. But then the idea of going outside was triggered by something as well. It might be that you need to go shopping, or it might be that your cat's outside and you need to go and get it, or who knows, whatever. So things that rest on other things, certain conditions happen. Right? But the reason that anxiety or fear or whatever you want to call it, that label, whatever the reason that exists is because there is a much more intense, probably imagined to be too big to handle. Something under there that's so big that we got to keep away from it. And so, as horrible as the feeling is that you get when you go outside or think about going outside, excuse me, it's nothing compared to the possibility of the feeling that you're trying to keep away from. That is just so big, so huge. It is literally the monster under the bed. Right? When that comes into your consciousness, it almost paralyzes you. And whether it's associated or not, that feeling of the body not feeling is a way of coping as well. Oh. And what that almost certainly is going to rest on is some I don't know why it's so hard to find words sometimes. You had some kind of experience, very likely at a very early age, that was pretty horrible, whatever that feeling was that came, for whatever reason that came, that horrible feeling. And you learned over time, you learned how to cope with that feeling, and that was by doing a whole lot of things, that whatever it is you did. And that mechanism that you developed as a way of coping with that, it evolved over time as well. But it was always based on that original thing of keeping away from that feeling that was so bad that you just felt like the world would explode if you went there. We don't necessarily have to interact with that original thing, but it will probably reveal itself if you get close to it. But a lot of the, were you here when I was talking to Sylvia earlier on?
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of the same kind of stuff in principle, just the same stories, but with different details apply for that kind of thing.
It's interesting because I used to be a little bit claustrophobic, which is the other end of the same thing.
Yeah,
I think.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to offer a perspective. When you said the words, it feels like the sky is watching you. It really struck me. What if the sky were watching you? What if the sky were really an aware being? And maybe not a separate being. So might this fear that comes up when you go out and you see that being, which is actually not another being, might that fear be like, could you also call it maybe fear of disintegration? Fear of discovering that you are nowhere, so to speak?
Yeah, definitely.
What's
And no, just finishing. And what you imagine, just speaking to myself, because I'm hearing that these things I could as well be telling myself when I wake up in the morning, but it's always easier to tell them to somebody else. So that fear might be discovered to be a relief, really. If you take off the label and you really let it be, let it be, let it be, you will discover that it might not be a fear, but such a relief.
Like, would it be?
I don't know if I'm being clear enough here.
No,
Yeah,
I was
that's
just
pretty
thinking,
clear. Yeah.
yeah, I was just thinking I'll have to like be open to that next time it comes up and explore that. That's what I was thinking.
Beautiful. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. So what if the sky touching you is an embrace? What if it's protecting you rather than anything else? Yeah, possible. Huh? Yeah. This is so close to home. I mean, every day, every step, everything is a discovery. It's just so beautiful to be able to see things in a way that isn't in some kind of category that we used to put it in. Yeah, that in fact it can belong in all sorts of places. Yeah. And I like also that you seem to have a pretty good grasp of some of the tools that you'll use to examine these things. But habit is, boy, habit takes us places where it's just so easy sometimes to kind of slip into old ways of being.
I I feel like I've been regressing in the last few years, so it's been well, I mean, it was kind of purposeful, but so it's just been interesting.
Yeah,
Regressing in some ways, but I'm seeing more things in other ways. But so
sure.
it's just
I get what you're saying. Yeah, and I love the fact that you say it seems almost purposeful. That regression may not be actually a regression in that sense. It may be that you are progressing down some kind of memory timeline of things, and you if you allow that label to appear, that like, okay, well, things are going backwards, but in fact it's forwards into backwards, that you're intentionally going backwards as a way of uncovering stuff. We do a bit like that. There will be times when we'll feel quite infantile, and that doesn't mean we're an infant again. It just means that we're open to experience a memory that was stored somewhere, probably in the body. It was never in the head, because we would remember it if it was in the head. But yeah. So that openness, that discovery, that's brilliant. I love that. That is the way to see what's going on.
it just made me think that maybe next time when I am trying to feel my body but can't, and then sort of have that outer sensation of like space touching me, and how you said that was an embrace, maybe that would be
Yeah, you just check it
useful.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have a look and see if it's possible, that you were misinterpreting what was going on. Yeah. And I like that you it might be a stretch for me to say that you were looking forward to the next time, but you at least had the idea that next time there is some new possible opportunities there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't feel like too much of a stretch to say that I could be looking forward to it, but only for maybe I'll only look forward to it for like 10 seconds into it. Well, I'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. That's it. Beautiful. We'll see. Yeah. Now I want to just chase down a little bit this what you mentioned about the body numbness, or no, you didn't say the word numbness. I thought that the word numbness. You said can't feel or not feeling.
Oh yeah, first I couldn't feel it, and then when I finally managed to, then there was numbness.
Right. Yeah. So numbness on the surface feels a bit like it's not feeling, but of course numbness does feel like something. There is a feeling involved with numbness, isn't there? You know, it's
Yes.
kind of a muffled feeling, but still it's a feeling. Yeah. So numbness was the outcome of trying to feel something that you couldn't feel. Is that what you're saying?
Oh. Oh. I'm not sure. It just felt like yeah, just that tingling and numbness that you get after you haven't, I mean, it wasn't as strong, but after you know, like when you've been sitting on your leg or something wrong, and then you stand.
Yeah. I got that one. So that almost feels, I would describe that as sometimes a feeling of pins and needles.
Oh, yeah, I guess it wasn't pins and needles. It was I'm not sure if you know, there's some weakness. It's more like the sensation I get when I feel helpless and like my body just like is feeling weak and like
Yeah.
normal
Okay.
feeling.
So where you were just then, that your words reflected, you were describing beautifully what it felt like, and you were talking about an ability or inability to do things. I think you use the word helpless.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you can see that's a long way from what you were describing about not feeling. So underneath, you might say, underneath the feeling of not feeling is a very active feeling of helplessness.
Mm.
And again, the pure imagination on my part, could it be that that feeling of helplessness was far worse than the feeling of not feeling?
Um, yeah, yeah, it was worse.
Mm. So maybe the feeling of not feeling, I wouldn't say the feeling of numbness anymore, but the feeling of not feeling something was a way of avoiding the feeling of being helpless. Maybe I'm not saying, certainly not saying it is true,
Mm.
but I'm just saying, you know, that what we have, if that is the case, we have uh, a pulling apart of that whole thing, and then we're starting to see some details underneath. And if we pull apart the feeling of helpless, if I could consult your intuition right now, what would it say about going further down this road of feeling helpless.
It would be easier if I took it slower and dragged it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so that was why I asked that. I certainly don't want to rush anything. These things will happen in their own pace. And so what you've already got, I think, is we've just peeled the outside 2 layers off the onion kind of thing. And so integration, I think, is valuable as well at this point. So what we have, if we want to put it into a basket and say what we have so far for you this afternoon, that's my afternoon, is a whole lot of curiosity and openness and a bit of discovery even about possibilities. And let's float around in that for a little while and see what happens, eh? By no means the end, but yeah, let's take things at the pace that they want to go at. So whether or not you have yet learned to trust your intuition, we'll go there pretty fast. Your intuition can tell you things that's the only way you'll find out some things. Yeah.
Now thank you, because sometimes in the past I would try really hard to just push things.
Mm, mm. Yeah, and that's often why they don't work, because we're pushing too hard. Yeah, yeah, good trick. Yeah, thank you for that. That was it's interesting. I'm absolutely fascinated by what people go through. Yeah, I'm fascinated by what I go through too. It's crazy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm. Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. Mm. Are you there, Ramesh? No, you're not by the look of it. Mm.
Hi, Vince.
Yeah.
I wonder why you provide like these
Mm-hmm.
hopeful interpretations or perspectives about feelings that may come up, and wondering if that's really helpful.
I don't know. You would have to ask the people I'm talking to, I guess. Yeah, I certainly don't want to present kind of that fake positive feeling stuff. But yet I guess I'm responding to a story I have about what is the fundamental nature of a human, and I can only see it as a kind, open-hearted, loving, connecting person. I cannot get my head around that anybody is evil or that there are any, I recognize people have intentions, but I they don't control that. I forgive them for that. That's just the way it is. So it's like, yeah, there is a positivity that's there that it's just the way it is. I think it's just there. But I'll be very interested in your ideas about it not being helpful. Do you think I'm helping people to bypass maybe?
I think it's possible because I can see where that positivity comes from, because it's natural to want others to feel better.
Mm,
And some of the things you share do make people feel more hopeful, but it's like, hopeful in what? Hopeful in the possibility that they are going to get rid of this feeling that they don't want. And I think that could be another thing they cling on to that gets in the way of, who knows what it gets in the way of, but
mm.
maybe gets in the way of clear seeing.
Yeah. So what if you and I have a pact, if you like, and call it that, where if you see me doing that you tell me, bring it up at some point, and let's have a look at it. I'd love that, to get a real world version of that. Yeah. You reckon you
Sure.
could do that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Great. See, I don't plan what I'm going to say. I don't have any agenda when I come to these meetings. If you guys sat there and said nothing, that's all I could do as well. I just respond to what comes up here, and it feels good to me. That's why I do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, it's like, why are people coming to this meeting? Are they coming to this meeting to feel better about something and latch onto something, or to see something very clearly? And also, like, the conditioned reasons behind why you're saying what you're saying to them. Is it out of compassion to the person first and foremost, or is it well, I guess it's just, what cause do we serve with the things that we say, and what do people actually want?
Mm.
Maybe
Of course.
someone
Yeah, go on.
maybe someone just does want to be pacified and doesn't want to see, and maybe that's what they get, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with
Mm.
staying there. I don't know, it just makes me, that whole thing just kind of rubs me the wrong way, maybe because my wanting is to get, or what I have been wanting through this whole thing was to get down to the bottom of it. Sometimes that purpose seems not served, but there's nothing wrong with that, I feel. Yeah, I don't know.
Mm. Yeah. Mm. What comes up here is that, you know what, I have no idea why anybody comes to these meetings, and this might sound weird, but it's true. I also have no idea why I do, but I do. I just do. And if it looks like, and it has happened recently, it looks like I can't make it on time or something, some anxiety comes up as well. So I see getting here and starting this meeting is pretty important, but I don't know why. I've no idea. I don't really know why I'm here. I can't, I mean, I could say all sorts of things. I could invent stories, but if I try and just describe what I might consider to be a motivation, I get a blank pretty quickly. I don't know. I mean, I'd love to think that it's me trying to help the world, or me trying to help individuals in the world. I do, and yet, see, this has been going on for years and years and years for me. So once upon a time, in would be about 1970. At 1974 to 1979, about that, might have been 73 to 78, somewhere around that period. I spent 5 years as a hypnotherapist, and I was working with people, helping them quit smoking and all sorts of stuff, all sorts of stuff come up. And this might sound ego stuff, egotistical, if that's the word. But I was good at it. We got good results with people. And then life led me in other directions and various things happened. I would say, and again, it might sound egotistical, but I don't get a swelled head over it, so I don't think it is. And that is, I have literally helped hundreds and hundreds of people over my lifetime have a better quality of life. And you know what? I can't remember any of them. I don't know who they are. I have no contact with them anymore. They kind of came into my life and something happened and things went well and they moved on. And I moved on. Yet the world itself doesn't appear to have changed. It's still as shitty as it ever was in some ways. So, it's a bloody mystery. The whole thing's a mystery. Why do we do? Why are you sitting on a red chair? Why isn't it green or some other color? Things happen. That's all it is. Life is things happening. Yeah. So no, I don't know. But yes, I do want other people to feel good. I'd love to be Harry Potter and wave a magic wand over Don, and all of a sudden he's not chasing his tail anymore. I'd just love to be able to do that. But I can't. Maybe we'll have to do it in a different way. Who knows? Yeah, maybe it won't happen. Yeah, I'd like to think it would, but who knows? So yeah, no, there's no answer. But I like the questioning. I just had a whole trip down memory lane and around the world I went because of your question. Thank you. That was good. But I don't have any answer for you. I don't know. Yeah. And here's Ramiz. Howdy. Haven't seen your face for a little while. I wondered why you've been hiding again like you used to. Is it because you're feeling something?
Yeah, it's been chaotic. I have no idea what to share.
Mm. So how's your grandmother? Is she improving?
No,
No. Is that part of the chaos
she's
for you?
yeah, she's
Mm.
in pain more and more, and
Mm.
it's triggering a lot of feelings in me.
So how are you handling the chaos? Getting lost in it, seeing it happen.
I think from the outside, I'm pretty calm. But inside is like so chaotic. Mm,
Is that outside being fairly calm require effort, or does that come fairly naturally?
Sometimes it requires effort, like um, like I'm pressing on a brake or something.
Mm-hmm. But you haven't, have you? You haven't broken.
I dream about screaming.
So tell me about the scream. You're screaming in agony. You're screaming as a release. You're screaming to achieve something. What's the flavor of your screaming? What's it
It's like
it's an expression of something. What is that?
it's like a reaction to noise. It's like when I scream to cancel the noise.
Oh, okay.
It's like I even in I a while ago I dreamt about screaming, and in the dream I wasn't even hearing my screams. There was silence. It's like my scream was so loud that I'm not even hearing my scream.
Right. Yeah. Wow. So what is it? What is it drowning out?
What is what?
What is your scream drowning out? What is your scream? Your scream is to stop you from hearing something else. Did I get it wrong? I thought I heard you
Yeah,
say, yeah.
nothing specific, like noise, like hypersensitivity to noise.
So do you usually remember this dream, the scream in your dream, as soon as you wake up or later in the day?
I don't remember. It's not frequent. It happened a few times.
No, I can't hear you now. Oh. Sorry, try again now.
It happened a few times. It's not frequent. And also there is fear, like an existential fear. Happen mostly when I wake up, and it feels like visceral in my body. It feels weird, like being in the body feels weird.
Mm-hmm. Does it feel like you don't belong in the body?
It feels fragile, feels without substance.
Okay.
And it feels like a kind of a joke or a trick,
Mm.
or it's like I'm inside a prank somehow.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Or also it feels like I'm being it feels like kind of a conspiracy theory. Like there's a movie, I don't remember what it was. It's about changing life, starting a new life. It's an old movie. You take a different body and different identity and
Mm-hmm.
something like that. And it's associated with hospitals, doctors being manipulated to go to the doctor, and it feels like I'm being manipulated in this fucking universe. So
Mm.
to essentially be in a grave, and and when my grandma is in pain and she's complaining and she's scared, like I have nothing to tell her. Like what I'm supposed to tell her, like it's gonna be okay.
Mm.
No, it's
Mm.
not.
Mm. Mm. You're a bit trapped there, aren't you? It's a no-win situation. There's nothing you can say that's going to change anything. The word mistake came to my mind. Does it feel to you like there's a mistake that you're locked into this body under these circumstances? Does that feel like a mistake? Mm.
Well, I think Ramiz is already starting to realize this for himself, but Ramiz, what if, you said it feels like a prank? What if it is just a prank? You said your body feels fragile. Or what if you feel that existential dread because it's not just your body, but everything that you thought you knew being fragile? Maybe you're starting to realize that everything you thought was real isn't real. Not that it's a bad thing, but it's a bad thing can seem bad from that side. If your goal has been to wake up, it might be something to celebrate.
I feel like if this is like an illusion in some way, and waking up from it seems like abandonment, like I'm abandoning this body, abandoning people.
Mm.
It's like if waking up will be looking at this as insignificant and not being able to relate to this pain, then why would I wake up?
Mm. So where did the idea come from that you wouldn't be able to relate to these things when you wake up?
I don't know. But I can't see how like I don't understand what's the point of waking up. It's
There's no point. There's nothing here for you to gain.
Well, the cost is too heavy.
It's pretty bad business, actually. You know, you give everything and you get nothing. But when after you do give everything, I mean, you realize you didn't give anything at all. It's so ironic because the only way you get there is if you're willing to give everything.
Do you imagine that when you wake up, you will lose connection with people? You imagine that you won't feel the compassion that you now have for your grandmother?
I don't know.
You say you don't know.
Do you think I need to accept the suffering to wake up?
What I experience for you might be a good example as to how, see, I can't find any conclusion about some end result, about what will happen, what might happen. My feeling with you right now is just almost a heart turning inside out, almost just incredibly intense feeling. And if I put the label compassion on it, that kind of works. But it's way more complex than that. You know, it involves all sorts of other things like hope and even despair is in there. That here you are feeling this stuff, and I know from my experience that it's almost mandatory to whether you feel this like this or not. There's no suffering in my feeling for you. And even though there's this huge wish that you were in a much more peaceful place, it's like there's also acceptance that this isn't something we can manipulate. It's going to happen or it's not going to happen. I don't know. It's like there's no, I can't put a thing of it, of accepting it or rejecting it. Neither of those things. It's just there. It's just the way it is, right? So it's like I know in my head that you're what I would describe as suffering. I know you're suffering. In my head, that's what I have, and that's what my feeling of open-heartedness is about. That is not a pleasant feeling. I imagine, because my feeling is kind of bittersweet. It's like, it's like I can't. It's not neither pleasant nor unpleasant. It's something else, but it's intense, definitely very intense. But along with that is just that's the way it is. So you could call that acceptance, I guess. Doesn't feel quite right though. There is just a recognition. It's not a final conclusion. It's not a thing that I'll go in future. Oh, well, I accepted that, so I don't have to think about it anymore. No, it's not like that. It's there's no final conclusion. There is just the way it is now. right? And half an hour from now, I'll be out there cooking tea and I won't even think of you. Well, maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know. But anyway, it's so to say acceptance or rejection or anything like that doesn't fit. You know, I respond to what is in front of me, and if it was your grandmother in front of me, I would probably have a similar feeling in my heart that I've got for you, for her. And I wouldn't necessarily be driven to try and change it. It's a bit of a weird one, but you know, what she might be going through right now could be exactly what she needs to go through. You know, she might just wake up before she dies, or she may get well and go back to being a healthy person. Who knows? Who knows what the outcome will be? We don't. Yeah. So it's not my place to interfere with what's going on for her. As much as I would like her not to be feeling anything unpleasant that she's feeling, it just is the way it is. But in 5 minutes from now, it could be completely different. Who knows? What I'm feeling towards you doesn't mean anything. It is just what I'm feeling. It doesn't mean anything about me, and it doesn't mean anything about you. It is just what's there. I can't even really describe it. It's just like that bittersweet thing. Doesn't touch it, but it does point in a direction that there, yeah. So it's heavy, it's big and heavy, and oh, my chest is so full. Yet it's also kind of nice. I don't know about it. No, I can't. Yeah, it's weird stuff trying to explain that. Yeah.
I think bittersweet is a good word because, of course, no one wants anyone to be suffering. And
Yeah,
that's where the
of course.
compassion
Yeah.
comes from. But, at the same time, if you know what this means, it's like you can't help but feel happy for
Mm.
that. And it's not happy for Ramis. Like I want Ramis to die, and then what comes after, pretty cool.
Mm.
And I might be completely wrong when I say this next thing, but I think Ramis, you may have come here as a final, maybe not even final, but as a looking for a way out, as if all of this is somehow avoidable and you don't have to go through this to get to the other side, as if you can ask questions and we can give you an answer like, no, you'll be fine, just ignore it. You can keep everything, you can relate to whatever you want. But no, yeah, and this might be completely wrong, but yeah, I think what would be better is to push you over the edge, because it's like you're hanging on a cliff with one hand, and you're asking for us to pull you back up into dream state. But I want to I want to step on your fingers and then launch you in a free fall. So no, you can't avoid it. Just nothing. There's nothing there.
It's weird to think that he'll step on your fingers with love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a pit of spikes that you're gonna fall into, it's a pit of I can't say anything about it.
Mm. Anyway, I want to hear from Don before we wrap up for the day. I hope I'm not cutting you off on anything, Ramesh.
You okay, Ramesh? Do you want to say something? Can I ask a question? I just have one question, Ramesh. Just curious. When you're there not saying very much, are you like experiencing blank nothingness in your head, or lots and lots of thoughts you can't figure out which one to say, or sort of searching for some kind of clarity and waiting and it doesn't come? Or something else?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's not blank
It's not blank.
noise. Yeah. A lot of energy. I feel like there is a lot of anger. If I felt, it will break my nervous system.
So are you saying that long pause after you're asked a question is you manipulating anger? Is that what I heard you say?
No, not manipulating, not consciously. No.
Should I wait for you to say something, Ramesh, or will I say something?
I have nothing to say. You can go on.
What's the short version, if there's a short version? Sometimes, yeah, lately it feels like like I say in a kind of a jokey way, I go, gosh, the universe is so generous. It's given me such a horrendous amount of stuff to deal with recently that I'm completely hopeless and there's nothing whatever that I can look forward to. And wow, I'm so grateful. So I can just let that, there's nothing, I kind of think I can just let everything go, can't I? Because there's nothing, and I really feel like I want to surrender and let everything go or something. I don't know if I'm fooling myself, but and yet on the other hand, then this little thought comes, one of these thoughts that comes and says, or like, I don't know, I call it a thought because non-duality people are supposed to say it's a thought, right? But there seems to be mechanisms. I was doing some focusing yesterday again, like it's like, I don't know, trauma kind of mechanisms or something that are just kind of going, you have to stay in your thoughts or you'll die. And there's fear there, and there's intense kind of dissociation and confusion and all kinds of stuff going on. And I try to just sit, and it just goes, no, presence is not safe. Do not be present. Be distracted. be thinking about the future, be worried about something, think about something, distract yourself. Do not be present. Do not be spontaneous. You'll die. And there's mechanisms like that, and they're really fucking deep into the. And I spent hours going down looking, and I can find a little bit of one of them. And I can't even heal the flipping things mostly because whatever healing means, because they're keeping me small. They're keeping me from being the adult or the self or something that would be necessary to heal them. So I'm working on that stuff for flipping 20 years and can't seem to heal that stuff. Then I go to a non-duality thing. I'll just surrender to the thing. I'll just be present and I'll just do self-inquiry. And this mechanism is like just in the background all the time going, nope, you're not allowed to go there. You're not allowed to be that. You're not allowed to be present. You have to be fucking here worrying. And I'm going to keep you terrified and keep you sad and keep you blah, blah, blah. And I just don't know what, and I keep hearing the refrain, that's just a thought. I'm like, oh, look, I know it's a thought, but it's a thought about something that's happening. And I can't, I just don't know. So I go back and forth going, I'm just going to do self-inquiry. I'm just going to keep looking for the identity and see that there isn't one or something. And then these mechanisms come and it's just fear and confusion and shut down and feels like me, as I say. And I don't know, I just feel, it feels like between a rock and a hard place. I kind of go, I just would like to surrender. And so I think, and then there's this thing going and I go, I can't, I feel like a victim of that. I know with whatever Rim has said about the joke or the conspiracy, but I do kind of feel like a victim of my own psyche. I'm like, it's just, not a conspiracy, but it's like, it's set up to keep doing this for whatever fear-based trauma, survival kind of reasons, and it doesn't want to stop. And whoever I am, whoever the seeker is here, just can't undo that for now, or hasn't yet. And maybe it is just a belief, but my current belief is I can't. Yeah, I don't know. I would say, I don't know. Yeah, one of the beliefs that comes up a lot is I can't wake up while this is working because it won't let me, because it doesn't like presence. It thinks presence will make me die. And it's determined, and it will shut me down, and it repeatedly shuts me down into almost unconscious, going to sleep feeling states when I try and pursue it. And I do pursue it for years with therapy, and I get little bits of it. And some of the time I get this feeling of all of this progress that I make with understanding and describing and whatnot is just circling around the same fucking solid pillar of stone made out of whatever this thing is in here that just won't let go. And I can't, yeah. So anyway, that's where I feel I am. And I think that's a belief, and that might not be true, but I just feel it's true a lot of the time because I keep coming back to this seemingly to the same place. And I got a good distance last evening with my folks saying, but as usual, I get a good distance to just about like I really see something clearly, but don't communicate enough to let the thing resolve or release or heal or, kind of, we got a really long way down to intense self-criticism, down to fear. And then I'm like, that took 2 hours, the girl that does it with me is so good, patient. And I'm like, but yeah, that's still there though, still doing that, it seems. It's still criticizing every word, every action is criticized continuously like a scream in the background all the time. It isn't just thoughts, it's just screaming the whole time. And when I got down to that, it was just fear and no images or no childhood stuff or anything, just really young, I'd say. And I'm like, okay, that's really great progress, but I haven't let that hasn't released what it's doing. It hasn't healed. It hasn't felt safe. And that's just one piece. Maybe that's the only piece that's doing that, or maybe there's a bunch of them. That's what I get to. Weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of therapy. One of those, I get down to one of those, and I nearly get to the place where I'm like, oh, wow, I can feel, I can connect with this part of me, and I can, and it doesn't release, it doesn't heal. And now it still feel now a little bit today, the same as it did yesterday, that it's just this intense wrongness that my whole being is just wrong. And yeah, and there's this fucking universe there that includes you and some kind of presence or some kind of silence or some kind of peace that I can kind of perceive that I'm not allowed to participate in. I have to stay here in these thoughts and suffer in this fucking story because that's my job. And
that's
there
a big
you go.
one too, isn't it? Yeah. And you think, you know, your thoughts are saying you'll die if you get out of your thoughts, and you will. You will
And that,
actually die.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. At least that Don who's locked into those thoughts will die. But yeah, so we can't have that. We can't let you. You know, your thoughts are there to look after you, aren't they? Do you
I mean, the
appreciate
part of me,
them? Do you feel good about them?
not so much. I try to be grateful sometimes, but you know, when I go and do some kind of a session, I realize they're there to help me. But mostly I feel annoyed and frustrated because it's so intense and negative and fear-filled. I mean, I would say, you know, as I say, like the seeker part of me says, let's die and let's just surrender and let's, you know, go into nothingness or something. But then there's this other aspect
Yeah,
of
it
obviously
won't let you. It won't let you die. Yeah, yeah.
doesn't want to, yeah.
So you could even want to die and it won't let you.
I think it's because I mean, yeah, not that I'm incredibly courageous, but I've done, you know, I've sort of do drop and fall, just let myself fall into whatever is happening, whatever feelings or thoughts are happening. I just go, whatever, I'll just drift into that. I don't want to control anything. And even some of the psychedelics I did, I had to do some of that, just diving into the feariest of fear and go, just you have to swallow me up and kill me because it's the only way it'll go through. And I can kind of have that mechanism still. I just dive into things over and over and over, going, nothing I can do.
Yeah.
I have to just let go.
So
and not try to...
where a lot of people have these little experiences, and it kind of accumulates, and eventually they trip over into something, you know. But your little ones don't go anywhere, do they? They just exist in
That's
isolation.
Again, it's, you know, I can say it's a story, but I do feel that over long periods of like glimpses of this kind of thing we're talking about here, and also therapies, where I get a day of things resolving a bit, and then weeks of complete disaster after that. And it doesn't, I don't see an accumulation or you know, like, I don't see the glimpses getting closer together or getting longer, and the confusion getting less or anything. I just feel just random glimpses here and there, and really long periods between them. And like sometimes a year and a half from one glimpse to the next, or sometimes a few weeks or a few months.
Yeah. But every time you have a glimpse, you also get this story that it's not going to last.
Let me see. Maybe it's probably hanging around, that story. It's probably hanging around. I don't know. It's funny. No, I mean, sorry, I have to remember back now, but I think I'm ridiculously optimistic each time something good happens like that. And I think, oh, that's so great. I'll just keep doing this, or whatever this was I was doing, or I'll stay here, and the next day I wake up confused and distracted and upset again. And like, fuck, where did that go? So I do get ridiculously optimistic each time something good happens. And I don't know. And so then I get, again, my dejection here is because I keep getting optimistic, and I keep getting the mechanism comes back and takes me. And as I say, it could be a story, but it's just I've had very many years of watching. So I'm sort of, part of me is going, let's just surrender into the whatever, the presence, and I'll just do self-inquiry, and that's all I need to do. Another part of me is going, I need to do some kind of therapy. I need to keep asking people questions, going, do you know what I'm talking about here? Can you help me to see into this? What is happening here? Can I understand this mechanism psychologically so that I can unravel it, so that it doesn't keep on fucking me up? And then I go back to, let's stop asking questions. Let's just do self-inquiry and do meditation.
So the whole purpose of the whole thing is to what? Why would you even embark on this path?
Only because I'm described before, I had an experience way back in the year 2000 where I saw that my thoughts and emotions weren't me, and I was like, fuck, that was the only time I was ever happy.
So you want that back?
Yeah, because it seemed so real. I was like, this doesn't feel like an experience. It went on for 3 months. It was just really clear that I wasn't my thoughts and emotions. And I just suddenly like, oh, I didn't know that was possible. Who am I now? I don't know. I'm just whoever's aware of thoughts and emotions and everything else. And I didn't know that was possible to be whoever that is or whatever that is. And I just stayed 3 months. Everything was easy to do. And my life was I still had debts. I still had a job I didn't like. I still had all that stuff. And that's fine. I don't care. It's just not about me. It's not worrying me. I'm just getting on with it. And then some confusion came in and it disappeared. It was like, what happened? So like to me, that was like, maybe I'm just trying to recreate an experience. Maybe that's true, but same time, it seems so real and so like what non-duality types are here talking about. I'm going, yeah, I want to stop believing my thoughts and emotions are about me again, if I can. Because, but even I was just listening to Rami's or talking about the sadness, or say for example, I was feeling some sadness when I was listening to Rami's, and I remember in the last few months, on one or two occasions, feeling really clear and present and feeling intense sadness and going, that's okay. That has a good reason to be here right now. I know why that's here. I'm happy for that to be here. It's just, I'm sad because of things that have happened. And it's okay, and I'm happy to feel. But if it's sadness in a big long story about this is never going to end, and oh my God, and this is me, my story, and it's impossible, then that's how, when I use the word unbearable, that's why it's because it's in a story. And I'm identified with, I can't get out of this story, and all the sadness is part of it. And that feels different. Anyway. Yep. Don't know. So I keep on contacting different people to see, like I don't know if you know Shar Jason, she's from your side of the planet. She did some non-duality, but she stopped for a while there recently, but she used to talk about having lots and lots of trauma and saying that she really had to do lots of stuff. I talked to her one time and she was like, stop doing non-duality, just do like regulate your nervous system, do craniosacral and other things, and then heal your trauma and then come back. And like, oh my God, all I'm doing is non-duality. What am I going to? But I've been trying to do the nervous system thing. That's, don't know if it's even working, but I'm trying with various techniques. And healing the trauma, I don't know. That's a mystery to me too. But anyway, yeah, her experience seemed to be that she needed to do those things first. And she's seen other people but I don't know how to do those things first. I've been trying for a long time, but don't know. Yeah, so
maybe partly what she was saying was that you're actually using the non-duality stuff to distract yourself from what is going on.
Yeah, maybe. What she kind of said was it would re-traumatize me to do it. She said if I go to Angelo's retreat, it'll be like going on a trip or something, like a psychedelic trip, and it could traumatize me and it could be too hard to deal with. Although but my experience is that my life traumatizes me, like going into my job does that. Whereas some kind of self-inquiry is fairly relaxing. Maybe I'm just, yeah, maybe. But I'm doing the other stuff at the same time. I'm doing all kinds of therapy and things. I don't know.
You're trying so hard not to be Don. This Don anyway. Yeah.
This Don, yeah, because I get this, like, I know I've said this before, like many things that I've said before. But during last July, Angelo's online retreat, a few times he said the phrase "trust yourself," and I maybe he said it other times, but he said it then, and I just had tears in my eyes whenever I heard him say that. I was like, oh my gosh, am I allowed to do that? And I sort of knew there was something. I don't get tears in my eyes very much. That the myself that was about was something I wanted to be, which isn't this whatever drama that's going on here. Maybe there's no myself, as somebody said. There's no myself. It's just I know, but I don't know. But there was something about proper presence and spontaneity and beingness that was pointing to, that was why the tears were there, from gratitude, going, oh, can I really do that? Can I really be that and not be this fucking nonsense here? Have I got permission to drop this nonsense and just be? That's why I can feel it now when I say it like that. Can I have permission to drop this and be? And I don't feel I have. I don't feel this mechanism here will let me.
Yeah. What came up for me just then, I wanted to change that can I have permission to drop this stuff to you needing an order to drop this stuff. You need to be given an instruction to drop this stuff by some special probably non-existent person.
Um,
What if your dad told you, Don, stop it?
oh, I see. Yeah, I know what you mean. But it'd be in the head, like he was in the head, and that's why I'm in. But my first reaction or suspicion or whatever instinct is I need safety to do it.
There's safety. Did you say safety?
Safety, yeah.
Right.
Like something like, if that's possible. Maybe that's not possible, but yeah, being shouted at my dad wouldn't help that much. But feeling safe and connected might allow me
Yes.
to just
Okay.
not bother anymore, because it's most of
Right.
it's about safety and feeling I'm going to die. So if I didn't feel, if in some way the world or people or whatever allowed me to
So,
feel safe, I would maybe be able to just forget about this over a little bit of time, because it's all about safety and feeling alone and stuff.
so
But
how does trusting yourself fit in with that safety thing?
yeah, that could work, couldn't it? As it were. Um, it's funny how I sort of know that that's possible, and yet I don't know how to go that way or
Mm,
something. It's
mm.
a lot of stuff. There was one little tiny few seconds I was doing this focusing thing with the girl I did it with last night, last year sometime. I was doing this, and she's really good at help me to find safety during the sessions, which I can almost never find during sessions with other people. And I don't know how, she asked me whatever to where to find, and I was like, oh, it's here, the safety is here in my heart. Unusual thing for me to say. And then I just felt that myself, that I'm being pointing at, and it just for 2 seconds, it was just obvious there was nothing that could touch that. It was just totally safe. There was no fear. There was nothing. I was like, oh, that's so obviously true. It feels so correct, or absolutely true. But I knew it was true. But I don't know how to go back there, or how to, yeah, because it's I kind of know the direction of it, I think, and yet these mechanisms are going, no, you don't have permission. No, let's get distracted. Let's get afraid. Let's think about something else. And they're so energetic. Like for years trying to meditate and just calm down. Calming down isn't something that happens. Thoughts slowing down isn't something that happens. And so I get back to this additional thinking, saying these mechanisms here are so determined to keep me, and I have to, therefore I have to heal them first before they will let me. But I don't know, it's hard to know how to heal them, because they're very complicated. So it's a long fucking story, I know, but yeah.
That's fine, yeah. No, so the way I see things too is that you've been around this circuit for so long. You've got so much stuff that you could write a book about all of these modalities. No worries at all. But I want to find a new chink, one that you haven't, and I want to go at it in such a way that the old protections don't work, kind of thing. Yeah. So what occurred to me as a possible new chink is this: you can't go back to anything. You can only go forward to something. So whatever you had in the past, whatever you've seen in the past, that those months of whatever it was, bliss, those little moments when you see clearly, you're never going to get back to them. But you can go into them in a forward direction. You can go into a new version of them. It won't be the same. It'll be a new version of them. So if you ever get back to that honeymoon period that you experienced, it'll be different. It won't be the same as it was. Yeah. It'll always be new because you're changed. And even though you think you're not, in a lot of ways, you also recognize that you are, but they're little bits and pieces, but they make up a different person. There's a different Don there now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the idea of going forward into something new is like, let's make that homework. Let's make that a thing to do. Let's at least once a day sit down and spend a couple of minutes contemplating going forward into something new, a new one that experience doesn't play a part in, or at least not much of a part, you know, that's it's new enough to be called new, different to anything you've ever experienced before, but it kind of has bits and pieces of the other stuff, but nevertheless it's different, it's new. Yeah,
that makes sense. Thank you. Yeah, because I do, I mean, I do what do I do? I was going to say something like, I know that I don't know what's going to happen next, or I know that I can't understand, or I can't figure, I can't, predict. So not knowing is not just, I don't know, I would say not knowing is not just a concept. I kind of experience not knowing sometimes. I'm going, yep, don't understand this. That's fine. Let's stay here or go this direction.
right.
That kind of thing. It seems real. That was one, as I said, last July, I had this kind of, again, another glimpse. And one of the things that made it seem real to me was that I couldn't understand it in any way. I knew it wasn't possible to ever understand. It's like, okay, cool. That seems like where
that's it. That's good.
Yeah.
I bet you there was a bit of humor in it too, eh?
Yeah, well, it was lighter, I suppose. Yeah, it was more just light. I was just, well, for a day, or no, it was more like 4 or 5 hours. The intense self-criticism stopped, and just everything was easy for a while.
It had nowhere to stick to for a moment.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, or else it was, well, maybe it was just combated by another ego piece saying, "Oh, look, you understood something, aren't you great?" I don't know what it was. I don't know.
Yeah, that's it. That's the beauty, isn't it? All this shit happens and we've got no idea about it. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah.
Weird. I just wish I had some trust. I know I can't, I don't know if I can't manufacture that, but I don't feel, as I said before, like as a kind of a committed atheist for so long, I'm embarrassed to say I wish I had some faith now. Because like I don't trust that this is going. I was listening to, I know you have to go and make your tea now. I found one of Angelo's videos a few days ago that I had watched a year or something ago, and he said, "Don't forget this aspect," or something. I don't know. Anyway, but he was saying that at some point you'll notice that the one who's the seeker, who thinks he's doing whatever the seeking thing, will events will overtake, and you'll realize that the process is doing you, or something like that, and that's a positive turning point in your journey or something. I don't know. And it won't look like a spiritual thing. It'll look like things in your life going wrong, and there'll be a big no in your system going, a no to everything. And that's part of the journey. And that's so good. And like, fucking hell, I've got a big no to everything right now. It must be amazing. I'm so auspicious. But part of me, I like to believe that's, or the other part of me goes, maybe my life is just a fucking disaster and there's no awakening whatsoever going on here.
Could be the case.
Could be. Yeah. And yeah. I don't know and I'd like to, have that, because I feel like having that faith and trust would actually help. It would help me to see the positive things more.
Okay,
I don't know.
Yeah. One of the things that comes up with the trust thing, and you may have heard it before, but anyway, there is no such thing as trust. What there is the absence of mistrust. So mistrust you can experience. Trust you don't. If you're experiencing trust, you don't know you're experiencing it because you're relaxed and you're not thinking about it, right? But when you've got mistrust, that's the opposite. That's definitely there. Yeah. So really, when you talk about having trust for yourself, you talk about actually not having suspicion and mistrust and expectations of negatives and so on. That's really what's going on there. So it's not the moments of looking when you feel. So, I mean, even though you might use the word trust to describe what your experience was, and it's fine in normal social circumstances, but here it's much more valuable to recognize that mistrust was absent.
Yeah. So that's pretty different thing. Even now, just comment that while I'm listening to you now, I mean, it's ridiculous for someone who goes into work and does a job and pays a mortgage. It's amazing I can survive doing those things. I could barely hear what you were saying. There's so much thinking, so many thoughts being shot at me, saying, no, it's not going to work. It's not, it's just distraction, negativity, doubt, blah, 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 going on intensely while you were talking. Going, don't listen to that. No, I don't know. No, that's not working. And it's just doubt and it just not even fully formed thoughts, just like energy pushing me, pulling me, distracting me.
So could you talk to those thoughts and say, look, you don't need to keep on going at me. I heard you. So shut up. And I know what you mean.
Yeah. Maybe I could. It's weird how aggressive they can be. They're like, fuck off, we've no interest in listening to you, kind of. So I can sometimes get, I don't, sorry, I feel like I'm going down a road of one of these sad stories that has no good conclusion, but it's just the story. I have lots of times done various, like therapy thing like last night, and I get, after a lot of effort, get to working with one of these parts and have that conversation, and we get a bit of communication going, but it doesn't fully resolve usually. And then there's something else comes in. And I had this, I've pretty said this before, one of the MDMA things I did a year or so ago. And I kind of went down into the unconscious, whatever, but it don't 100% trust it because it's a substance thing, but it's very consistent with my other experience. And it was like I found whoever I was, me, the spontaneous one that I have tears about, going in, that me being spontaneous me, down in a canyon, basically in the unconscious, being kept away from the light and kept away from. And then there was 5 or 6 other parts whose, you could see their job, and they kind of, in some sense, it was almost like they knew that they had to collaborate. So there was one that thought about the past, and one that worried about the future, one that worried about my job, and one that fantasized about random shit, and one that distracted me, and whatever. And they had 5 or 6, and it was like a tag team wrestling group. And if I got close to one of them so I could see what it was up to and I could have a conversation, almost immediately I'd be distracted by another one of them and they'd take me away. And to be able to work with, I've actually aspired to that a few times, but I haven't managed it in a therapy session, to bring all 5 or 6 of these mechanisms. And maybe it's silly to characterize them as so specifically with a number, but it feels like they're kind of, anyway, to bring them all together at the same time, because they do tend to do that. I get close to one of them, and then the other one takes me away oh my God, good job. You have to go to work tomorrow, and it's, oh my God, or, oh, you shouldn't have said that to that person yesterday. You're just close to working one of them, another one takes you. And it's like they kind of know, they're really silly, but maybe that's one of the messages I got, as it were, during that session, was they know their job is to stop me from being spontaneous and being present.
And they're very good at it.
Keep me in thought and keep me in this. And so whoever I am, the seeker who tries to do therapy and stuff, finds that really frustrating because it's so much energy.
Won't let you grab hold of anything.
Yeah. And I don't know how to I guess one of the reasons that the non-duality appeals to me is I kind of go, it's so, I don't know, absolute or something, that maybe I can drop all of that and not have to go through the steps. That's because the steps I've been trying for so long just keep on unraveling. I think if I could just recognize I'm not a person in one go, would that not make all that easier than afterwards, or obviate a lot of that? But
well, there's lots left after you see you're not a person, so don't get your hopes up. I say there's lots left after you see you're not a person. Don't get your hopes up too high.
Okay. I can't imagine it's worse than this, though, is it? Couldn't be.
Oh, I don't imagine anything's much worse than that. That sounds pretty shitty.
Yeah. I know I'm repeating myself, but I'm just saying for whatever reason, I'm kind of going like really, really flipping hopeless for the last 6 months, like unbelievably. I wake up, get about 5 seconds of clarity, and then a thought comes and goes, oh my God, I can't believe my life is like this. Like decades of depression later, this is the worst time ever. I'm like, are you joking me? This is awful. I can't bear it. And this is, I got that thought nearly every morning. And I spent the whole day trying to drag myself back into some kind of presence from there. I'm like, Jesus, can I make use of this situation in any way to wake up? Because it's just ridiculous. Oh, fucking hell. Anyway, yeah.
All right. Thanks for that, Don. You're still hopeless in my mind, but we'll
Yeah,
yeah.
you know,
But keep at it, man. Keep at it. That's the thing.
what else can I do, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you slag me off about making all this effort, but I do sort of believe from experience that the mechanism that I've been describing, I'll just keep doing that. So
Yeah,
surrendering for
sure.
me is just
Oh,
surrendering
look,
to the
yeah.
story is what it is in practice, not
I,
surrendering to presence.
yeah, gotcha. Yeah. I recognize the hole you're in. I can, yeah. And I have respect for it too. You know, it's amazing. And I'm just, fuck, you know, I'm really honored that you're in my life. I mean,
Mm.
I just love that this is not easy.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, part of it is like, I know Tyler asked a question before. I mean, part of it is me just complaining and going, oh, you need to be sorry for me because my life is so hard. But I mean, another part of it is maybe somebody I talk to will go, I'll tell you what, I've experienced that. Let me explain back to you how this is going to work for you, or give me some insight because they've
Yeah.
had a similar experience. A
Might
lot of it
happen.
is
Yeah.
kind of that. And one of the reasons I go into so much detail is because I'm going, please understand exactly what I'm saying so that when you respond to me, that the thing you're saying, I can see that you
Yes.
understand me. So I can
It's relative. Yeah.
really
Yeah.
take that. And then that will
Mm.
help me to maybe, I don't know, that will, because I have this feeling I often get generic advice from people about how to deal with things. And I'm going, you're not listening. You're not
Yeah.
listening
Yeah.
to what I
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
You're just giving
Yeah.
generic
Yeah.
advice to a person. No point.
Everybody wants to just give you a painkiller. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, and then other people say I have to do it myself. I know that's true too, I suppose, but just because it's confusion here, I wanted to see if
Mm.
sometimes if someone else had experience that was similar, that would.
Yep. Well, bits and pieces of your experience certainly you see in other people, but the whole thing as it is in one piece for you is pretty unique. I haven't seen anything quite like this. But I mean, there's lots of variations too. Yeah, but it's great. It's a great movie. It's better than Netflix. Yeah. And you know what? In spite of it all, in spite of all how seemingly intractable it is, I still feel optimistic. I do.
It's weird that I always do too. It's weird, like I'm depressed and
Yeah,
optimistic at the same time. It's yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I just don't know what the fuck. What are you going to be like? I mean, this new Don that isn't like this, it'll be a total stranger to you and to me. Total
Probably,
stranger.
yeah.
You won't have any idea how to be the new Don that isn't got all this shit going. Well,
I
maybe
know.
you will. Yeah, who knows?
I don't know either, yeah. I know you gave me an exercise last. I've been trying to write down. You asked me last week, write down how I would feel if I woke up, and I was trying to do it, but it's hard to know if I'm feeling miserable. So I have to do it when I'm more cheerful. But yeah, I can't imagine like. But you said something like your wife didn't even notice when you woke up or something. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
can't imagine. I would have to imagine that everyone I know would be like, what happened to you? I
Okay, they
bet you
won't.
they
They
couldn't.
believe me, they won't.
You sure?
Nobody will know
Yeah.
except you. Oh well,
Yeah.
some might, a few might, but yeah, true. Yeah,
It'll
because
be
everybody keeps seeing what they want to see, you know, or they keep seeing what they expect to see, you know. So yeah.
on the few occasions when I've been relaxed and calm in my life, not awakened or anything, just calm. The thing that I know I said this before too. The thing that freaks people out the most is when I'm quiet. When I don't talk, people are always like, "Are you okay? What's wrong? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay today. The other 600 fucking days when you didn't ask me how I wasn't okay. But today I'm okay."
Okay, because when you're not okay, that's what they expect from you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. You're normal. Don's being
yeah,
normal.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good one.
I think
Yeah.
people are definitely gonna notice, because for me, people did notice because of such a drastic change in the way I act before and after. Because before, you're constantly fighting for things you believe in, and when you're not anymore, people do see that. And I think it's so strangely, I mean, like impossibly, Dawn is so impossibly self-aware for someone who doesn't consider themselves awake. It's
Mm.
so
Exactly.
amazing to see.
Yeah. He does a lot of things that are quite awake, but don't tell him that. He doesn't. He'll just bat it away. He's got this baseball bat. He'll just flip it away. No worries. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I consider that too. I can see things fairly clearly, and yet it still pisses me off that this negative trip is going on, and it makes me feel shit. And I'd prefer if it didn't do that. And I kind of go, there must be some identification happening for that to be so powerful, and I can't see through that yet.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Yeah, well, that's a shit story. Get rid of it. Don't worry about that one. You know what you don't know what must be the case. That's
Maybe.
Try the idea that you don't know what's going on. That's probably that's much more productive. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it though? I don't know. I can't imagine. But how can you do anything with that? Or you're not supposed to do anything, are you?
Oh, that must drive you crazy. Yeah. Yes. No. No.
It's because as I said, that's because just I keep calling it a mechanism just for a word to use. Like it feels like it has its own flipping idea what it wants.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it will keep doing that. I will keep worrying about shit and keep having negative stories all the time and keep blah 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 all that, and it will feel like me, and I'll be in those stories all the time because of these mechanisms. And I'm going, whoever I am, the seeker part of me is going, no, stop that, get out of those stories and stop believing in them. And if I do nothing, it seems like all I will be is in those stories believing them, as I have been for decades.
Another thing just jumped up for me then. What if you can give those stories credibility for some whatever reason, some mysterious reason, rather than to say, I believe them. Right? Every time you say, I believe them, you are solidifying this sense of an I that is believing. Right? And what I'm offering you is a way to describe it more accurately, which is that they are there, that they exist. These thoughts exist. They're not you. They're not you. They're not you. They're not you. They're just there. So it's not a you believing them, but it's you that is appreciating the credibility that they seem to have, even though you can't find that credibility. You know, you're assuming that they're credible because of this thing you call belief in them. Right? But forget about I believe, and say that's a credible thought, or say it's not a credible thought. It's incredible, or is it uncredible?
Yeah.
It's not incredible, is it? But okay, but so talk about thoughts like they exist outside of you, that they have some independent intelligence, if you like. Just we know this is a story. We're playing with it. And thoughts just exist almost as if they've got a life of their own. They're not you. They're not yours. They're just there. Just play with that one for a moment too and see what happens. Like again, once a day, if you can think of doing it, if it turns up. Yeah.
It's kind of possible to do it for a little while, to watch. And then, the believing part. I remember I actually asked Angela a question about that over a year ago. Why do I believe things I don't believe, kind of thing? And he gave me a very long, detailed answer, which was cool. And I spent ages to it. And I still kind of sort of just see the basic answer I have for why I believe my thoughts, or why do I believe things I don't believe? Because I look rationally and go, that's not true. And yet I'm keeping on responding as if I believe it, it seems. And the simple answer I had after a lot of looking at it was, one is these thoughts are very, very repetitive. They just go on and on and on and on. And secondly, there's an emotional reaction that feels like it's true. And those things together, and then it's, of course, self-recrimination for believing it and stuff. And that mechanism seems like belief. And it takes a lot of effort to see it clearly what's happening.
You said to me once, that I remember, you said to me that I am compelled to obey them. Or maybe I don't remember you saying what
Something
you
like
said
that.
exactly.
Oh, there was,
You're
yeah, there
talking-
was some thought that came along and said, yeah, something like that. There was an additional thought that says you must believe these thoughts,
Yeah,
or you
yeah,
have no
yeah.
choice. Yeah, it was kind of
Yeah.
like, again, like the voice of my dad almost. But yeah, you have no choice but to believe these thoughts. There's an addition. That was interesting to see that. But yeah, it brings a little bit more clarity, but it doesn't fully let me
Yeah, yeah.
drop.
Yeah.
And sometimes I see just thoughts, and then sometimes they do seem somewhat credible or believable because they like to look for reasons why I'm wrong and go, you were late for
Oh,
that
yeah.
meeting, you haven't enough money in your bank account, blah, blah. And many of those things are true. My house is a mess. I was late for that meeting. I did spend too much money on such and such or whatever. And lots of those things are kind of
Yep.
true.
Yeah.
So it's hard to dismiss all of it. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, let's not dismiss anything. Everything is of value. Even the shitty stuff. Yeah.
You ever try writing down your thoughts?
Yeah,
Yes.
a couple of people mentioned that. Said dump your thoughts. And the person thought I would take 20 minutes or half an hour. And I was like 4 or 5 hours a day for the whole week, and it never ever stopped. It didn't go around to the start again. It just went on and on and on and on and on. There was one particular day when it went into a nice non-dual recognition thing. I was like, oh, that's cool. But the rest of it was just heavy trip for hours and hours until my hand was almost falling off. Yeah. I don't know what people mean by that. Do you if you did that, would you come to the end of your thoughts and go, that's all of my thoughts? Only
Yeah.
6 pages. Yeah, really.
Yeah, but no, not that you come to the end like you've finished all of them, but more that they stop coming up because you see the falseness in all of it.
Oh,
It's kind of
yeah.
I remember in the past I read Jed McKenna's book, and he talks about
Okay.
this practice called spiritual autolysis, which is basically it's just writing. You just try to write something that is true, and you don't stop until you manage to write something that's true. And then you have to do the practice on the basis that, nothing you can write is going to be true. And so when
Okay.
you write something and you believe it, you have to scrutinize it until you realize it isn't true. And then if you can't, you come back to it again. And so you
Okay.
just, it's like, yeah, you just burn. It's like, I don't know, it's like these little rats, right? Your thoughts are like rats in a dirty kitchen, and then you're like pulling the rats out, and then you try to shoot the fucking rat, and if you can't hit the fucking rat, you just keep trying to shoot the rat until it dies, and then you keep going until all the rats are gone. And sometimes when you shoot one thought and you see its falseness, a lot of other thoughts fall with it that were based upon it.
Yeah.
That could be useful. I don't know.
I don't know either. Yeah. I haven't found it so far because I feel like there seems to be such a huge supply. And then one of the thoughts will come and say, this is never going to work, don't you? Because the whole mechanism is designed to keep you involved in thoughts forever, and that's what you're doing.
You believe
Um,
that?
I kind of do, yeah, because that's what it is for, I think. It's to keep me in this space where I can interact with my dad, who isn't here anymore, but keep me in this headspace and keep me thinking, keep me worrying, keep me planning, keep me doing all that. What have I done wrong recently? What's going to happen next? And it feels like it's designed to keep me in that because that's the only place it's not safe, but safer than being oblivious and being present. And it feels like the mechanism is like, just stay here and keep thinking forever because that's the only safe place.
So you've just made a conclusion about the mechanism, and basically you've said like a whole load of shit that is shit, and you're gonna leave it and move on because it was just a thought. So the point of writing it down was you could have written that down and looked at it until you realized it's shit. But now that you've said it and left it, you're never gonna realize it's shit.
Okay. So that, yeah, because there are conclusions in that, I know, yeah, and they're not necessarily true. So I could write that down.
It doesn't, even what you just said could go down.
Okay.
And there's no, it's a house of cards, right? Cards built on cards, and they're just cards all the way down. Turtles all the way
Yeah.
down. Yeah.
That's oh, I don't know how that works. I've done it for days and days, weeks and weeks
Don,
before. Yeah.
I heard you saying that people give you generic advices
Yeah.
and that doesn't work for you. That reminds me of someone who was saying that if you can recognize a note being wrong, that means deep down you know what's the right note. You
Okay.
actually know what's the right note.
Okay.
So you know the right advice.
Yeah. That makes sense, I guess. Like, yeah, I guess it does. Yeah, I know what you mean. I think I know what you mean. Okay, I'll have to explore that a bit.
Also, there
Maybe,
is a
hopefully.
theory
Hmm?
that people give you the wrong advice
Yeah.
because maybe they like the secret dawn. They don't want you to wake up.
That's
No,
funny.
we like him the way he is.
Yeah, sometimes people say. I mean, maybe that's thanks for me. I look at that. I mean, part of me thinks one part of it is if somebody isn't getting what I'm describing, I have that piece. I'm going, this person isn't getting what I'm talking about. Or if they are getting it, I go, oh, this person really understands what I'm saying. And then secondly, if someone gives me advice about something I've done before, I tried that worked or didn't work, then I know from that experience. But maybe there is something. That whole trust yourself thing is really kind of goes in that direction. Anyway, I've kept Vince from his tea, I think. So I should
Yeah. I'm getting
go and
bored
do.
with you anyway.
I know, yeah.
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 Don, you've what Ramiz said, I think, is certainly something for you to consider, and that is that in spite of all this shit that goes around, and this is, I don't know if I actually heard this, Ramiz, but what came to mind was that you know the way out of this. You just don't know that you know it.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. And both of those pieces sound reasonable. Yeah, I don't think I know it, but it's possible that I do. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll be patient and we'll see and we'll get closer every time
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
That's yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, thank
Okay. Well,
thank
if I don't go and cook tea now, I'm going to get divorced. So
Gotta go.
I'll see
Okay.
you all later.
Yeah.
Good one.
Or
Yeah.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.